Hello, my name is Hakon and welcome back to my channel, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for the fourth episode of playing Chasms of Malice. So last time I got a little bit stumped as to what the correct path through this game might be. Today I have a theory. I'll talk about it when I change the view down to my desk view because I want to pointed things on the map. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about that at the moment. So, no other sides right away. There might be others later, and I'll just swap to my overhead view on my desk, which is this one. Do we have enough light here? Yeah, I think we're okay. Yeah. Right, so Chasms of Malice. So I'm not going to start this game from the very, very beginning today. And the reason is, of course, that I've done this a few times now. If you're watching this episode, I'm quite sure you would have watched one of the earlier ones. If you haven't, watch at least the previous one, where I will talk this through from the beginning. Now, just to do a little recap, for those who may have had a little bit of time passing from they watched the previous episode until this one could happen. In this one, you are, as usual, quite common in fighting fantasy or in high fantasy in general. You are the only person who is able to save the world. And the story goes that there's in I can't remember the names of this place now. Hang on, just give me a moment, and I'll find the relevant background story so I can refer to it. So this happens in a kingdom known as Gorak, which at the moment doesn't have a king. They used to have a king called Tancred the Magnificent, who was the one who he is the sort of the Charles the Great, the Charlemagne, the that sort of character for this particular kingdom, and he had some amazing adventures with his brother Orguz. In the chasms, which are a natural part of the landscape here. Now, the chasms in question of the title, the eponymous Chasms of Malice, now, they of course had their own people living there, known as the Gadon, or the Field Brethren, who have been living there and adapting to living in an underground cave environment. But Orguz, the brother of Tancred the Magnificent, he turned evil. There was something that happened when he was down in the chasms and the caverns that made him turn evil. And at the moment, there is a sort of protection against evil that they have here in Gorak, which is a shield, a magical shield. So what happens in the beginning of this game is the shield has been stolen, and the seals to the room that has the shield has been stolen, and it's taken down into the chasms. And presumably the only person who could have done this is Orguz, the evil brother of Tancred the Magnificent, and his minions, which are known as the Kudam of Orguz, of which there are 7. But one of the purposes of this particular shield is to prevent evil from spreading. So as long as the shield is intact, the Kudam cannot multiply. They multiply. They want to multiply. So there are 7 Kudam now, but if the shield is broken, then of course they will become more of them, as it says here. First there will be 49, then 2,401, and then 5,764,801 until they become uncountable hordes. And of course evil will rule the land. Now at the moment this kingdom is actually not ruled by a king. It is ruled by someone else who was called the Lord's Ridermark. So it's a bit like the steward of Gondor from Lord of the Rings. There is somebody who is the steward of a kingdom. They're not actually kings themselves, but they are in charge. Now, it turns out the only person who can wield a particular sword, which is called the, what's it called again? The sword of The Shining Sword. How imaginative, and it actually does shine. It's called the Shining Sword, which is a magical sword that belonged to Tancred the Magnificent. And the only person who can wield it and temper it in the unseen flame, which is making it the only weapon that can defeat the evil of Orguz, is a direct heir of Tancred the Magnificent. It's not really part of the story as it is told here why the heirs of Tancred didn't become kings themselves. I don't think that's part of the story. But they are now quite desperate. The wizard Astrogal is involved. He is the one who's figured out what's going on and what has to be done. And he says that they need the true blood heir of Tancred the Magnificent to wield the sword, to temper it in the unseen flame, and to defeat Orguz and all the 7 Kudam as well. He cannot defeat Orguz without killing all the Kudam. Very important point. The Kudam are like sort of demon minions of an archdevil, I suppose. If you think of Orguz as a kind of that kind of creature, like an archdemon. So they have to find the heir, and of course they do find the heir, which turns out to be you, the player character in this particular one. You have been working in the kitchens as third assistant rabbit skinner until you are discovered, and because Astrogal had some magical means, a sort of a royal air detector that he went around and it said beep 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 beep, and he got closer to you and then he found you. Yeah, that doesn't say in the story. I just made that up, but maybe he did. Maybe maybe it made a beeping sound. And then he found you, and you are the only one now who can save the world. Yes, brilliant, isn't it? Which is also why today I made myself a cup of tea, because, as you know, can you really save the world without having a cup of tea? The jury is still out. Right. And originally in this one, and also a little bit funny, I suppose, is instead of having a potion, you have a cat. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but there's also a cat which is descended from a line of goddess cats, known as Tabisha, the Bazook, who is your cat companion, animal companion, and she is then going to grant you the effect of the same as you get with potions in normal fighting fantasy games. So you get a potion of stamina, luck, or skill. And also she can be instrumental in providing food, and also a few other occasions where it makes sense for it to be a cat, because she can seems to be able to communicate with some divine forces that can actually help you survive in some cases that are different to using a potion. So it makes sense in the actual book itself. So that's sort of the backstory. Okay, so you go into the chasms, your mission, find all the 7 Kudam, kill them, temper the sword in the unseen flame, find Orguz, kill him, and then there is a hint that something else is going on as well, that there might be some kind of treason happening closer to home. Also quite a cliche, isn't it? Somebody might be pulling the strings actually in the, high up in the echelons of society themselves, because they want power for themselves, that sort of thing. So it could be an inside job, but we don't know about that yet. We'll know at the end, presumably. Maybe Orguz isn't actually the big bad villain. Maybe there's somebody else. Maybe it's a Lord Rydermark who's actually trying to pull the strings in order to gain ultimate power for themselves by destroying the destiny of the kingdom as a kingdom, and then become kings themselves. It's possible. Anyway, now last time I had a problem because I had a theory about what might be the correct path, because one of the main indicator, I would say now, of the correct path through this book is, and this is what I lost focus on a little bit last time, is the Kudam. So you have to kill all the 7 Kudam of Orguz. So if you see a place in the story now with the Kudam, let's see, I'll go back to page 1 now. with the Kudam, you know that that is going to be part of the correct path through, and you have to find a path that includes all the ones you have seen. So at the moment, in the beginning, there are actually several possible ways you can take. I mean, many of them lead to you being captured, in fact. And when you're captured, you get to a point where you actually find two Kudam. So there's two Kudam here. This is a section where you're captured. But there's also one over here, which is the Dragon's Breath Inn. So it is possible to get captured before you get to the Dragon's Breath Inn. It's also possible to get captured after you go to the Dragon's Breath Inn and kill one of the Kudam there. But what confused me a little bit was that after the Dragon's Breath Inn, if you avoid captivity, you get to a point where you learn some things that seem essential to winning the book. There's a kind of a code system. You get a sort of a number system based on these blocks with raised nodules that is used to create codes. Or symbolic code, a symbol, I suppose, more for a number, which is then used to refer to secret paragraph numbers in order to progress through the game. And that is obviously essential too. My mistake was that thinking that that only place you can get that knowledge is to not be taken captive after the Dragon's Breath Inn. Because one thing occurred to me after I finished playing last time, and that is that the particular paragraph where you are given the knowledge of cipher reading, as it's known as, was one where you were told to go to that paragraph and remember which paragraph you came from, and then go back to the one you came from after. Now, if you know anything about game books, that is a very huge, blaring, alarm-ringing indication that there is more than one way of getting to that paragraph. If the only way was to meet the old man in the Iron Cave, as he is known as, if that was the only way to get that knowledge, the paragraph wouldn't be structured like that in the book. You would just then simply go to the paragraph, and then you just get a new paragraph reference in that paragraph, and you go back into the Iron Cave with the old man. You're still in the Iron Cave, nothing has changed. But if you're told to go to a paragraph and remember where you came from, that means that that is a paragraph accessible from more than one location. There must therefore be one more location that you can get to where you get this information that is essential. So meeting the old man in the Iron Cave is a kind of red herring. You are sort of lured a little bit into believing by following a string of clues, because there is actually two hints here. There's one hint earlier on that tells you to go to Dragon's Breath Inn. Okay, that's fair enough. But you go to Dragon's Breath Inn, you get another hint telling you to go and see the old man in the Iron Cave. And it seems like the game is directing you to go that way. But actually, what you need to do is go to the Dragon's Breath Inn, kill the Kudam that is there, let yourself get captured, kill the other two Kudam you can only meet if you get captured. My theory for a while was that there was a way to get to this section where you, without getting captured. Doesn't seem like there is. And then you proceed through there. And then there must be some other place that I haven't explored yet where you find out the cipher reading system and therefore are able to proceed through the game. So I'm going to do a little bit of sort of skipping around a little bit here just to give you a feel now for the kind of progress and path that now is going to be what I'm quite sure is going to be the correct one for the beginning of the game. And then at some point I have a theory as well where the path needs to veer off from what I've chosen before to find new information. So I'll that's on another page of the map. Okay, so you begin through the game, you go into the chasms, Astrogal says, good luck, and then you have to find your way to Dragon's Breath in through the chasms, and is following, I'll just point it out on the map now. So you're following this path here, and then at some point you get into this path here, and it leads you to the Dragon's Breath Inn. Now, along the way, there are a few occasions where you see these orcs with dwarfs with collars, and these magical collars are what actually enslaves them, keeps control of them. And there are different ways there to help them, not help them, ignore them, and get captured, which will then shortcut you directly to the bit where you are taken captive. But you need to get to the Dragon's Breath in first, and let's just see here. So I'll just go in paragraph 381, I think, which is just before Dragon's Breath in, if I remember correctly now. Let's see, 381. Okay, so this is where you actually have entered the Dragon's Breath Inn. So it says here, it is very smoky inside the Dragon's Breath Inn. As you stand in the dark corridor, a goblin comes out of a door on the right. Actually, most days I am fine reading without reading glasses, but I can see some days I just my eyes struggle a little bit more to focus. So I'm gonna wear my reading glasses today. It is very smoky inside the Dragon's Breath Inn. As you stand in the dark corridor, a goblin comes out of the door on the right. He is chewing a large bone. He looks you up and down, spits, and then enters a door in front of you. You catch a glimpse of a roaring fire as he shuts the door behind you. Sorry, behind him. Do you wish to go through the door in front of you, or prefer to go into the room on your right? Now, and this is where, if you go in front, you get into the sort of main room of the inn, and you get the hint about the old man in the iron cave. But you want to go to the right, 262. So you hide the sword in your cloak and walk into a smoky chamber. So this was before the smoking ban, of course. In the middle of the room is a fire. You sit down at one, well, of course it could be the fireplace that is poorly ventilated, but yeah. In the middle of the room is a fire. You sit down at one of the surrounding tables and look around. As you get used to the dim light, you realize that the other occupants are all orcs wearing distinctive jerkins with a symbol of the mailed fist. So presumably that is the symbol of Orguz. You watch them swilling their ale and forcing food down their throats. So, if that sounds like they're not hungry, oh, we have to eat, oh, I can't stand eating, I have to force the food down my throat. A man walks past with a tray and is shouted at by one of the orcs. Come here, Gadon. More scorched spark, and be quick or we'll have your bowels for breakfast. The man is blind but moves with great confidence. So the blind person is, of course, he is one of the Gadon, the field brethren, the people who then, of course, evolved to lose their eyesight, because if you live in a dark environment, like a cave, you might not lose your vision right away, but it happened quite quickly, because the ones who didn't have vision, presumably, they also had keener, other senses were keener and therefore better suited to surviving in the cave environment. The man is blind but moves with great confidence. Do you get up and go to the other room or stay? So this is where I think I want to stay. 284. The Gadon brings the orcs their tankards of scorched spark brew and then comes over to you. You wonder at his ability to sense you. He asks what you will have and you order some food. When he leaves, the orcs are suddenly very quiet. The candles flicker and you feel a chill running up your spine. Just then, a black-cloaked figure glides into the room and hisses at the orcs. They quickly scuttle out of the room. As it is about to go, it starts to sniff and turns round to face you. Toplander! It hisses at you and pulls out a scimitar. Do you choose to run or do you fight? Now, excuse me. This is a kudam. So you have to fight it, or you should fight it. Now the kudam, I don't know, they remind me a bit of ring wraiths for some reason, especially this one with the hissing and stuff. So there we are. You draw out your sword, you are facing a kudam, one of Orguz's lieutenants. Kudam Gishrak. Skill 10, stamina 12. Now, in this book, as I've keep going on about, of course, your chances of survival, if you do everything according to the book, do all the dice rolls, etc., is absolutely minuscule. Absolutely tiny, 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 tiny. So, what I've decided to do is to completely ignore the dice, unless I want to use the dice for some reason, because it tickles my fancy to do so. The idea being, as usual, of course, it is not cheating, it is saving time, because you could get to the same point having made the same choices in the game, and at some point the only difference between your path through them, if you follow the same path, is going to be the dice rolls. You can abstract it down to mere rolling the dice. Even on the correct path here, the chances of survival are so small that it doesn't make any sense to actually go by the dice. But if you did it enough times, of course, your dice rolls would be favorable. You would get through without a scratch. But it is not cheating to say that you just automatically win a battle, because you could go back and do the same battle and roll over and over and over again until you actually did. So you're not cheating, you're saving time, and I'm going to save time both for myself and for you wonderful viewers, and say that I win this battle. And it says, if you win, when I win, the body disappears, leaving only the black cloak of fine mesh mail. Mark the dead kudam on the adventure sheet. So that is 1 down and 6 to go. Turn to 251. You stand there staring at the black cloak. Just then a Gadon woman comes in and sniffs the air. She is startled and appears to be able to smell the evil on the cloak. Who are you? What are you doing here? Do you confide in her, or leave the room at once? Now, this is where, if you confide in this person, this is where you then get the hint about the old man in the Iron Cave, which I think is a red herring. This is meant to make you stray from the correct path through. It's quite cleverly done, I think, because it seems to be the correct choice, doesn't it? Someone who can sniff out evil, who doesn't seem to like evil. You confide in her, you get a clue, you are led onwards into a different path, but you need to defeat those other two kudam. You need to make the other choice. I will leave the room at once. You run out of the door, straight into a squad of orcs. They grab you, and one of them hits you over the head with a large club. Deduct 4 stamina points and 1 skill point. Turn to 1, 2, 3. Now, there's a lot of losing of skill and stamina in this one, like this. And I'm wondering if that also is something that will make this book almost unwinnable if you go by the rules and the rolling of the dice. Now, so that makes it also sound like this is definitely the wrong choice. You lose skill points. I mean, normally you wouldn't lose skill points on a correct path through. But at the moment, this seems to me to be the absolutely only way that you can get at all the kudams. So I'm going to just roll with it and then see if this leads me in the right path towards the end. Still, it's just a theory after all. This is just or a hypothesis, as scientists call it. A theory is something that is very different. It's something that is practically proven. So, which is one of the reasons why there's a bit of misapprehension when it comes to the theory of evolution. That some people think, oh, it's just a theory. No, it's not a hypothesis. It's a theory, which means it's your best model for understanding what actually happened. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Was it 1, 2, 3? Yes, 1, 2, 3. You wake up in the back of a creaking cart, trussed up and with a dwarf's foot sticking in your face. It could have said stinking dwarf's foot there, but yeah, it didn't. The book didn't say stinking. It's just a dwarf's foot. Maybe it smells like roses. You look around and see 4 other bundles in the cart. 2 orcs sit at the front, arguing and occasionally scratching at each other. Behind the cart, you can just see a group of exhausted trolls trying to keep up. You also see your sword stuck in a barrel near the orcs. As you stare, the sword begins to vibrate and moves out of the barrel towards you. Do you want to attempt an escape now, or wait and prepare yourself? If you try to escape, then again you lose skill and stamina because that doesn't work. So you have to prepare yourself. Go for 280. Soon the chill darkness turns to glowing red and there is a hot smell in the air. The cart stops and you can hear a cracking and hissing. You are pulled out of the cart and see a stream of lava in front of you. There are 2 rows of 3 square blocks of stone raised above the lava. The trolls begin to measure up their position and to chant like Gorak schoolchildren. Block on the right, 1 across left, 1 diagonal left. Block on the right, 1 across left, 1 diagonal left. So they take you across and you memorize the chant in case you come back this way, which you do. Turn 371. Well, actually, that's not a given. You might actually be dead before you come back. So, yeah, 371. But is there another way? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. You are carried across by a troll. Then you are unbound and made to trot with the other prisoners towards a camp of black stone huts within a large cabin. Smoke rises from most of the buildings and you pass the remains of a great gate. You are dumped into a smelly, smoky room. There are about a dozen dwarfs and several gadon. After a time, an orc comes in with a bucket, throws some slops on the floor and tells you to eat. Eventually, several orcs arrive with small metal collars. So these are the ones you've seen before on a normal playthrough, not this one because I didn't go through those paragraphs. And the ones that are enslaved and then driven through the caverns, the chasms, in order to do some kind of labor for these orcs overlords, who are, of course, and then, of course, ruled and controlled by Orguz himself, presumably. Although we don't actually know for sure yet, we just presume this. So these are the collars, the slave collars they're wearing, and they also have some kind of actual physical or mental control over the dwarfs when they're wearing the collars. So they put them on the dwarfs and march them away. The male gadon are also taken, and you are left with the remaining gadon, a woman of dark looks, wrapped up in a black cloak. And this seems to be some consistent clue as to the nature of these Kudam, this is a Kudam, that they wear black cloaks and have dark looks. Now, she comes over to you and asks who you are. Do you tell her or keep silent? Now, I know that if I tell her, I end up fighting her. If I keep silent, do I also end up fighting her? There is a certain chance of that being the case, but I'm going to just go tell her right away because I just need the battle. So, tell her who I am. So, you cautiously tell the Gadon female of your quest for Tancred's shield. She smiles and you notice long fangs showing in her mouth. Her eyes open and shine bright red as she laughs an evil laugh. She stands up to her full height and swipes at you with a clawed hand. You realize that she is a Kudam. Even unarmed, she will be a formidable opponent. Kudam Churka. If you win, you're shot outside, blah blah. So again, skill 10, stamina 12. Quite a hard battle, and this time you actually have -1 skill as well. Interestingly, and I'm not sure if this is an omission of a deliberate one, it doesn't say anything about the fact that you are going to be fighting unarmed here. Normally, an unarmed battle would give you a penalty of 2 skill points. But yeah, so... But yeah, it's ignored for the purposes of this particular section, and it would have been even harder otherwise, because then then of course you would do less damage as well. So I think there was another battle where whether you were armed or not was actually a point made, and somebody was then given skill 12, stamina 16, as opposed to 10, 12, which makes sense. But yeah, it's already near impossible, this book, but there you go. I'm just gonna say that we win this one again. Saving time. Yep. saving time. If you win, you rush outside. Do you go left, right, or straight ahead? Now, left, right, or straight ahead. Oh, hang on. See, where are we now? We are on... Left is not good. Right is... Okay, straight ahead is the best choice. So, yeah. 312. Well, that seems to be the only correct choice. Because you run straight into the chief Kudam. Okay, this is the one where the unarmed thing comes into effect. Probably the greatest fighter out of the 7 fell servants of Orguz. She has no other weapons but her poisonous long claws. If you have not got your sword, use the skill and stamina shown in the brackets. If you have your sword. Now, this also made me a bit curious, because it made me think, is there actually a way to get here and still have your sword? That is to say, get here without having been captured first. This might also be a red herring, because now it's using the game mechanics of asking you whether you have your sword or not to... It's not possible to get your sword in 268, is it? Hang on, let's start double check now. I don't think it was. No. Yes. Oh, yes. It is actually possible to get the sword. Okay, sorry, my bad. So, if you go to 268 first, yeah. Because that's where you get your sword back. So it does make sense then. It was just me that was thought about this, because that's one I came across on the first playthrough, and by the time I got to my third one, I'd forgotten that that's where you actually get your sword back. So you are in another stone hut, much this way you turn right after defeating the first Kudam. So you're in another stone hut, much larger and grander than the others. You open a metal door and you're on your right to find a room full of weapons. An orc is cleaning a spear in front of you. Suddenly, you see your sword rise out of a pile in the corner and fly to your hand. And I'm sure there's some kind of music coming out, sort of fanfare. The orc throws the spear. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, it hits you and you are wounded. If you're lucky, it misses. You then rush out of the room, right into a guard troll. Do you fight or run outside? Now, if you fight the guard troll, you are then led away from the Kudam. So, fighting the guard troll is the wrong choice. You have to then go and run outside so you can meet the other Kudam. So, you go run outside, you go to 312, you bump into Kudam Priyankara. It doesn't say what happened to the troll. Wouldn't the troll follow you and join the battle? It doesn't make any sense. Although it does actually make sense, because it seems that all these orcs and trolls are absolutely mortified of the Kudam, and they just stay as far away as possible. So it sort of makes sense. But they could have made a point of that. They could have said, oh, the troll shrinks back as you rush outside and doesn't seem to follow you, which you think is a bit strange. And then you bump into the Kudam, and then you realize that, oh yeah, it's because the troll is absolutely terrified and doing things, making bricks when getting close to the Kudam, especially the chief Kudam. So, chief Kudam, Priyankara. So, you can have your sword here. This is not a red herring. You can have your sword. So if you win, mark off the name on the adventure sheet. If you have your sword, turn to 236. If you do not have your sword, you feel the pull of its power and make your way to an empty weaponry. You find it propped up in the corner. So that's actually quite good structure of a game book here. You are able to get your sword first before this battle, and then or you get it after the battle if you didn't have it before, which is good. Go to 236 and excuse me, 236. You stay in the shadows. You are amazed at the lack of guards. I don't know why there are so few guards suddenly, and have no problem in slipping over the perimeter wall. The lava river is glowing ahead, but as you try to walk along it, you find that in reality it is a moat. The only way out is the way you were brought in. You find the stepping stones and are faced with a row of 3 immediately ahead of you. You remember how careful your captors were in choosing the right step. So this is where you of course have to remember the first on the left, go across and all that stuff. I'm not going to go through all that now. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. To 108, is it? This is where you stepped across all the 3 stepping stones. Okay, so you choose correctly. You step forward and find yourself safely across the lava river. Looking back, you see a horde of orcs in the red glow. There were no guards before, and now suddenly there are lots of them. Yeah, okay. You begin to run, weaving from side to side as black arrows drop all around you. You run fast until you are exhausted and stop for a moment behind a large boulder. Deduct 2 stamina points. Just then you see a small hole big enough for you to crawl in and hide. Do you go to the ground or carry on running? Now, if you carry on running, you die. So, you go into the hole is the only safe option. You crawl into the hole and edge along in the dark until you come to a small tunnel, heading down. Suddenly you begin to slip and fall headfirst into a flooded tunnel. It is too narrow to turn around, so you must work your way through as fast as possible to find some air. You notice that Tabitha is not struggling, but seems to have found a small air pocket in your cloak. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, your quest ends here again, so there's a chance of dying again. If you're lucky, then the tunnel opens out and you rise up to take a breath of damp air. However, you have lost all your provisions. Turn to 296. Of course, as we know, no food is waterproof. Everything dissolves and disappears in water. At least in Forest of Doom and in this book. You come out of the water. When you look down at your hands, you see that they are covered in black, wriggling leeches. They're also all over your face. You pick them off, but they make you feel weaker and weaker. Deduct 4 stamina points. And also, probably you would be cured of every single ailment known to a medieval doctor. Because obviously they solved and they cured everything with leeches. As recommended to them by the great Hoffman of Stuttgart. If anyone knows the Blackadder reference. Owner of the largest leech farm in Europe. You realize that the leeches are poisoned. Tabitha has stopped licking herself and stands in front of you. You know that you are about to lose consciousness. If the leeches are poisoned, wouldn't they all be dead by now? If they're venomous, maybe, yeah, that's a different thing. But besides the leeches are poisoned, poor things. Some people don't know the difference between poisoned and envenomed, or poisonous and venomous. It's a thing, but yeah. As far as many people are concerned, interchangeable terms, potato, potato, that sort of thing. That's all right. I know what's meant. Anyway, but even though I know what's meant, I do like making a joke about it when I can. So yeah. Tabitha has stopped licking herself and stands in front of you. You know that you are about to lose consciousness. Deduct 1 skill point. So this is actually the second skill point you've lost, almost, it seems, inevitably. So it sounds like the only potion, that is to say, your choice for what Tabitha the Bazook will help you with, as in the effect as a potion, is to get your skill back. But anyway, do you will Tabitha to help you, or do you prefer to lie down and get some rest? Now, lying down and getting some rest sounds like you will die, which you will. So the only choice, is to make Tabitha help you. And of course, Tabitha, that's one other thing, of course. Being a cat, she can only help you 9 times, because it's like she's only got 9 lives, doesn't it? So it makes sense, it adds up. 336. Okay. You wake up in a hard bed in what seems to be an apothecary. In the corner sits an old woman at a spinning wheel. She looks at you slyly. Tabitha sits on your chest and purrs. The woman is talking to herself as she spins. Ah, yes, my sweet. We know the cutter is his, Tancred. Now another toplander comes to kill him. She looks at you. Yes, I helped you when called by this worthy feline. I also want the evil to go. I want August to die, and I want to be free of the malice. She gives you some potion to counteract the poison. Down to 79. I'm not sure. She doesn't sound very trustworthy so far, does she? But there you go. The woman helps you to get better, and as she prepares the broth, gives you good advice. Seek the caves of Minosadur. There you will find the means to destroy the evil of Orguz. Seek the 3 stone wraiths spoken of in legend. Then she begins to recite. One that always tells the truth, one that always tells a lie, and one that always tells the truth, followed by a lie, followed by a truth, followed by These are the guardians of the caves where the heart flame burns. Temper your sword there. You cannot hope to strike at the evil one without killing all his 7 servants. So, yeah, 7 servants being the Kudam, of course. We've already killed 3, only 4 to go. I don't know where the other 4 are. I've not seen them in my previous playthroughs. She stands stock still, her eyes glaze over, and she says no more. You leave her there and go outside to a tunnel. Do you turn left or choose to go right? So this is where we leave map number 1. Now we have to start thinking, where do we go that might be the correct path? So I've tried a lot of different things here. Now, so this is the Caves of Minosadur, which is what I call it. I'm not sure how that's Luke Sharp intended it to be pronounced, but to me it looks like it's Minosadur. And also it sounds much cooler than Minosadder, which is what it looks like if you just read it out like in English. That doesn't sound good at all, Minosadder. No, Minosadur is what I go for. It has to sound a bit exotic. So the Caves of Minosadur, where you find the Undying Flame, is here. And then you can also go over here, which means that you sort of bypass the Caves of Minosadur. But there must be something else, because at some point it should then be possible to find out how to read the ciphers. The codes, which are later referenced, I think, up here somewhere. There might be. It sounds like I need to blow my nose, actually. So I'm going to do have a little break for a few moments and blow my nose, and I'll be right back. Right, here we are back again, and back to see if we can figure this out. Now there was an option here, I put a big question mark on because I wasn't sure, maybe that's where I have to go to find something else, but I don't know yet. So, at the moment, we are told to go left 144 or right 252. 252 right goes into the Caves of Minosadur. Left goes somewhere else. I want to check out this 201 option, so let's find out what that is. Let's turn left. If this doesn't turn out right, of course, I might have to go back here, but at the moment I'm exploring. I'm trying to figure out where is the correct path. That is the big puzzle of this game, as it should be for any game book, and it seems like in this one it actually is a bit of a puzzle, which is good. Now, the tunnel is long and straight, sloping gently downwards. Suddenly you hear screams and shouts echoing in the distance. As you get nearer to the screaming, the tunnel divides. Above each new tunnel there are some symbols. The tunnel on the left is engraved with these symbols. The tunnel on the right is engraved with these symbols. Now, interestingly, if you've talked to the old man in the Iron Cave after the Dragon's Breath Inn, which means that you didn't become a captive of the orcs and trolls, and you didn't kill the 2 Kudam, when you get to this point, you will actually know what these symbols mean. This means left, safe, right, danger. and so you turn left. But I'm wondering if the whole point of this particular exercise is that if you don't know what these symbols mean, is perhaps the only time you would want to turn right. Could this be a kind of a double bluff? Maybe, and this was a theory I was toying with after I was playing last time, maybe the whole point is to direct you away from the correct path in this case. It's another red herring, based on the same, it's an extension of the previous red herring about the old man in the iron cave. And where you actually are meant to go is to the right, where it says danger. Maybe these symbols are there to, for anyone who knows the symbols, to stay away from that, but for other reasons than there being danger there, if you follow me. What do you think? I'm going to try that, because at the moment I tried a lot of other stuff up here and I still couldn't find any way back to the place, either to the caves of Minos or to the place where you're captured and have to fight those two Kudams. So at the moment this is my best theory for where to go next, and that is to turn right where it says danger, and there must be something here. So, okay. Inside the tunnel you hear a dragging, hissing, sniffling sound. You stop, crouch down, and see a scaly lizard-like creature dragging a dead orc along the ground. It sees you, drops its burden, and rushes at you with its long, spiky tail swishing from side to side. Tail Spiker, very descriptive name, well done. Skill 7, stamina 10, if you win, turn to 5. Okay, so far, so good. And my first new paragraph of the day is number 5. And this is, let's see, 7, 10, just for future reference, even though I am going to ignore this completely. I don't think I want to calculate the winning chances of this game because they're just so low, it's not interesting. The tunnel opens out into a huge cavern. You cannot see the top or the sides. There is a dull red glow and you can see several fires dotted near and far. As you walk further into the cavern, you see signs that a great battle has recently taken place. Orcs, trolls, dwarfs, and Gadon knights are lying all around, among bits of armor, spears, swords, and machines of warfare. Occasionally, furtive creatures appear and drag one of the dead or dying into a dark hole. To your left, you see what appears to be a last stand. A group of warriors are being attacked by a horde of orcs. Do you help or do you keep under cover? So obviously I want to help the Gadon. The Gadon are my friends. And the cave people, the Gadon Knights, of course. I'm anti-orc and I'm pro-Gadon. Okay, so either keep undercover or help. So I'm going to put help here, and this is where, of course, my map's going to get a little bit squashed, especially since I had to cross out something here. I can't remember what happened there. And so undercover, no. Because the thing is, they might need my help, but I might need their help more than they need mine, or even more. So, yeah. Of course, it is possible, theory number 2, by the way, there might actually be 2 correct paths now. It just occurred to me, because if you do help the Gadon Knights, it is possible that they will help you then to learn the cipher that you need to know in order to progress further. If you keep under cover, the orcs might win over the Gadon Knights, and then they might capture you, and then they might take you back to the place where you see the other 2 Kudam. So it is possible that at this point you would have seen the man in the Iron Cave and learned the ciphers and the code, including the left and right symbols and the danger and safe symbols. So actually there might still be 2 correct paths, and that's interesting. But I'm going to go with the flow now, and I'm going to help the Gadon Knights. But I'm going to check out this other one just to see what happens if you keep under cover. Because that is also interesting to me. Let's see. You make your way carefully, sort of ready. Troop of goblins. You may rush back and escape. Turn to 96. Or maybe not. Let's see, 59. 96. Seems it's sort of directing you to, it looks like you always get directed to helping the Gadon Knights actually, so yeah. So you get directed to 96 regardless of what you do. So at this point, when you get here, obviously you don't get captured by the orcs. You are pushed to helping the Gadon Knights. 380 also leads to 96 eventually. So yeah, so I'm just going to go with 96 now. Let's see, 96. Help the Gadon Knights, the Field Brethren, the Sense Warriors, as they're also known as. So you burst through a line of orc crossbowmen and rush for cover. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, throw a die. It shows the number of bolts that have hit you. They are not poisonous, but and easy to remove. Deduct 1 stamina point for each. If you're lucky, you have made it to the defended line and are greeted by the Gadon Knights. 30 of them, all wounded and all blind. Their leader, Alkis Fear Slicer, approaches, and you explain your quest. Occasionally an arrow lands close by. Alkis recounts how the actually Alkis just a little. I've got an aside for you. Yeah, I've got an aside. So Alkis, it's a perfectly fine name, of course. But if you the word Alkis in Norwegian is like sort of a slang shortening of alcoholic, alkoholiker. So if somebody is an alcoholic in Norway, you can say that they are en alkis. That would actually be the most normal way of saying it, because alkoholiker is such a long word. So alkis. Also, it's a Greek name, isn't it, as well? Alkis. Okay. Alkis recounts how the Gadon. Yes, let's see how they are. The leader's Alkis Fear Slicer approaches, and you explain your quest. Alkis recounts how the Gadon raised the standard of the Field Brethren with the objective of ridding their land of the Kudam and their followers. But the Gadon never realized that there would be so many fell creatures to fight. Alkis then calls out, "Saliak, we must use the crystal." A tall warrior with a large black beard warns of the dangers, but the fresh hail of arrows seems to change his mind. So the crystal is a dangerous thing to use. It's a special weapon. Okay, turn to 190. So this is where we want to move up hereabouts, because that's where there's room on the map. And good thing there was only one option. Otherwise I would have been in trouble, mapping-wise. 190. The crystal is very powerful. It will bring complete darkness to this land and confuse our enemies, who still need sight and light. We are masters of the dark and will escape, but the spell is dangerous. 1 or 2 may die in its casting. The group forms a circle. A small crystal is put into the middle, and a strange chanting begins among the warriors. Suddenly there is a flash from the crystal, and one of the group is struck. She collapses and disappears, but the chanting continues. Throw a die. This is your position in the group. Throw a second die. This is where the next strike hits. If the 2 numbers match, you have been fatally wounded, and you take no more interest in the quest. That's quite a funny line. That's a funny line. If the 2 numbers match, you have been fatally wounded. You have been fatally wounded, and you take no more interest in the quest. It's well, that's an understatement. Okay. Suddenly there is darkness, darker than any darkness you have ever experienced. A hand grabs you and you are led away at a fast trot in complete silence. Just then you hear a hissing and sniffing sound, and the warrior leading you stops. You both hear a third person. You think you can escape me by your puny spells. I can see you. The warrior who had been leading you speaks, and you realize that it is Alka's Fear Slicer. Kudam! I will hold him off. Run! Do you run or try to help fight Kudam in the dark? Of course I'm going to help fight Kudam. I'm the Kudam. I'm the main killer of Kudam in this story. Thank you very much. I'm not going to run like a little girl. 208. Sorry, Wind. Yeah. You know what I mean. Like a little boy as well. Equally, yes. I don't want to run like a child. Okay, that's better. Okay. Do you run 2377 or help fight Kudam in the dark 208? So fight and run. So fights 208. I see you, miserable intruder. You feel a stabbing pain in your arm. Deduct 2 stamina points. Minus 2 stamina. You are then pushed aside by friendly hands and you change your mind about staying to fight. Turn to 377. Okay, so in this case, fighting is not an option. You cannot fight in the dark, it seems. So you have to run. Like a little child. But there you go. It's in the dark, isn't it? So what can you do? You hear the clash of swords as you run away. You have no idea of the correct direction and stumble along, making a lot of noise. Suddenly you hear a voice in the dark. Come with me. A hand leads you across the terrain until you are told that you are safe. The voice belongs to Chorista, maybe, Alcas's second in command, and you are in Govanthian, a Gaddan settlement. In the pitch black you recite your story, and Chorista tells you that she is worried. Alkis has yet to return. You are left to sleep. Turn to 72. Okay. 72. When you wake up, you open and shut your eyes, but it makes no difference. It is still completely dark. There you go. Ah, good. You have slept well, I trust. You can tell that it is the voice of Alka's Fear Slicer. It tells you how he evaded the Kudam and spent the rest of the time laying false trails. The evil ones are not yet strong enough to attack Govanthian, but soon. Your quest must succeed. So the Kudam in question, whichever it was, has not been defeated, and so it's still one of the 4 left on the loose. In the darkness, you are taught to sense fight. Mark this on the abilities box. Okay, so this is something that was actually mentioned on my first playthrough. I got to a point where it said, do you know how to sense fight, or have you been taught how to sense fight? Because there was a battle in the dark, or one where the use of the eyes was then suddenly not possible. So at the moment, this certainly seems like a more correct path than any of the paths I've been on before, because you are taught sense fighting as well. But we still need to learn the side. Oh, hang on. I haven't looked further down the paragraph until now, but I see there's a reference to what I was talking about earlier. Oh, yes, let's just do this. In the darkness, you are taught to sense fight. Mark this on the abilities box. So this is 72. Let's put a big circle there. So this is where you get 72. Sense fight. And also, it says here, and you are taught the secrets of the Field Brethren ciphers, 2399. And that is, if I remember correctly, is the same paragraph as I was directed to when I was with the man in the old man in the Iron Cave to learn the ciphers. Examine the illustration and remember to come back to this point, it says. So I'm just going to go to 399 now, just to show you. This is exactly the same thing. It says there's ciphers, the old Gaddon counting system, are a way for the blind Gaddon to feel certain spellbound numbers, which, when whispered, will open ancient doors. Doors that were built in the heyday of Field Brethren culture. The secret has never been discovered by Orguz because it is such a complicated system. It boggles the mind. It makes it explode with possibilities. Look at the sequence of ciphers, 3 rows of 3, each raised circle has a specific value, 4, 2, 4, 2, 1, 32, 16, 8, 2, 5, 6, 1, 2, 8, and 64. Basically, binary from the top left. Very complicated, very complicated. A blank is indicated by a dot. Add the values of the circles to give you the secret cipher. But I suppose if you don't figure it out and you don't even know that there's something there to find, you just see the thing and you don't know that if you speak out a number that there might be a secret door, that might be all you need. So I suppose it does make sense that Orguz wouldn't have discovered it in a way. So yeah. So yeah, so basically binary starting from the top right. So there we go. So there is another way to learn that, obviously, rather than just from the excuse me, Iron Man in the no, the man, not the Iron Man, the old man in the Iron Cave, not the Iron Man in the old cave, if you see what I mean. You are then taken to the Gabanthian tunnels. You say your goodbyes to the people of the dark and enter a tunnel. What else will I enter? After a while, the path divides. One leads up and the other goes down. 33 or 393. So this is where, at some point, I have to find, of course, obviously the caves of Minos Talur. I don't know where that is. So relative to where I am now. So 393 is, I can see 393 actually, it is up here. 33, I want to get over here, so I'm going to try the other direction, even though I'm not sure if that is correct. So 33, let's try 33. So hopefully that will lead me to the caves of Minos Talur. You find yourself in a small and narrow tunnel that eventually ends in 2 doors. The one on the left is open and the one on the right is shut. Through the thick layer of dust, you make out the following pattern on the left door. So this pattern means, of course, I don't know that this means danger now. I haven't learned that that means danger. This says that if you know the secret cipher for the closed door, go to that number. Otherwise, go through the open door. So this directs you a little bit, doesn't it? So, so this is here. So 1, 2, 4, 8. So this is number 8, basically, 1 dot. This number is 2 plus 4. That's 6. And then it is, let's see, 8, 6, and 32, 64. Plus 64. So that is 70. So I'm just going to make a note of those on the map. So I'm going to go to, let's put them in dots. Dotted blocks on the map means that the number isn't actually specified in the paragraph, and you have to figure it out through some clue or puzzle. So 70, and that is left. Oh, actually it says there, doesn't it? Yeah, it actually says 70, doesn't it? And dot 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 dot. Okay, so this one is quite clear what is the correct number. Number 8. You utter the secret cipher 8, and the door opens. You find yourself in yet another dark tunnel. Turn to 77. Okay. So let's put that down there, 77. As you walk along the tunnel, you begin to despair about the quest. You sit down, drop your sword, and hold your head in your hands. The task seems too difficult. Tabasha tries to cheer you up by chasing her tail and behaving like a kitten, but it does no good. You are miserable. Suddenly the sword shines very brightly and rises up in front of you. An ancient voice speaks out. Do not despair. You are close to the caves of Minos Thalur. Seek out the heart flame, the weakness of Orguz. Temper your sword there. But first, beware the 3 stone wraiths, one that always tells the truth, one that always lies, and one that always changes from truth to lies to truth. Which is actually a better way of saying it than the old woman earlier. You are filled with a newfound determination and 1 skill point as you set off along the tunnel. So that regains you 1 other skill point you lost, but if you are at this point, you would have lost 2 skill points following the path that I just did. It is possible to get here through other paths, but that's, yeah. Okay, so +1 skill, +1 skill, and there's also hint. I will put that there, and then you go to 252, which is the entrance point here to the caves of Minos Thalur. So at the moment, it looks like I am on the correct path for winning this game. I'm going to put this arrow down there. 252. So you walk along the tunnel for a long time. Suddenly Tabasha jumps off your shoulder and begins to scratch at the side of the tunnel. You look carefully and find a narrow crack into which you jam the tip of the sword. I forget to drink my tea, which might impede my abilities to be victorious over Orguz. Or maybe, if I save a little bit of tea for the last battle, maybe that might just tip the edge of, tip the scales. I'm mixing up my metaphors and things today. Tip the scales in my favour. Cold tea, still nice. Okay. I know some people don't like it when it goes cold. My wife, she doesn't like it when the tea goes cold, and she actually wants to reheat it sometimes. Reheated tea, I don't know if you try this. If you have tea with milk and you reheat it, it never tastes anywhere as nice as when it's just been made. And it actually tastes nicer when it's cold, I think. But, well, there you go. That's me. That's matters of taste, and it differs from person to person. One can never say of another person's taste that they are wrong. That is being snobbish. So, doesn't matter what it is. Anything to do with taste. If somebody else prefers something else, they are always right. Right. Unless they don't know themselves, which can happen, of course. But yeah, normally, yes. The crack widens. Suddenly a door swings open. In front of you stand 3 stone figures, each by the side of an open door. You can think of nothing else but to ask each in turn if their door leads to the caves of Minos Thalur. Why can you think of nothing else? The first figure proclaims that the third figure shows the true way. The second figure proclaims that the first figure shows the true way. The third figure is silent, and this is how, of course, it seems a bit strange how the clue is supposed to work in this case, because one always tells the truth, one always tells a lie, and the other one tells the truth followed by a lie followed by truth. But the third one, we only have 2 people, 2 of these saying something now. Not the third one doesn't say anything. And not saying something, is that a truth or a lie? It's neither. So that doesn't make any sense. So I can sort of see what he was going for here, but it seems like he's changed it at some point because he had too many paragraphs. I'm not sure. There's a definitely a more elegant way in which this could have been done. But so now, because now each of these could be the one that is lying. Well, one could be telling the truth, the other one could be lying, and it could be either one of them. There's no logical reason why one should be lying and one telling the truth now. So, anyway. But I know it's the third door because that's the one I picked the first time, and that's the one I'm going to do now. But the thing is that the Caves of Minos Thalur, a little bit boring. I'm going to skip to the chase now. There's not much happening here. It's a maze, not as sophisticated as the maze of Zegor, which is surprisingly small but very cleverly designed, and stumped lots of people who just couldn't be bothered to make a simple map. So I'm going to skip to the place where you find the right spot for tempering your sword. So I don't know how big this maze actually is now, because still some options I haven't followed because I don't need to. Okay. So you go into the maze and you find a trapdoor in one of the rooms, and then you go down into it. And the trapdoor shuts behind you, and in the pitch darkness you can feel steps leading down. As you climb down, you can feel a strange warmth, as though you were getting nearer to an invisible flame. Just then, the sword begins to glow, and you see a large stone cauldron. Around it are full-seated figures with swords in hand. They wear ornate armor and do not move. You know that this is the heart flame. Here you must temper your sword. You walk forward and plunge your sword into the cauldron. Suddenly there is a great cry. Have you ever seen, by the way, aside again, I was just reminded, have you seen videos, if you haven't seen videos of how a katana is made, I mean a samurai sword, go on YouTube now and see if you can find a video of how they make katanas, because it is truly fascinating. And one of the things they do, and also part of the way that you get the that sort of scalloped edge pattern on the blade, is that when they are doing the actual smithing and the tempering and stuff, and the folding, and then at some point they put this like sort of clay on the thing, and it changes, of course, how the cooling happens when you plunge it into water, or I don't know if it's oil or water, it might be, I can't remember. It's been years and years since I watched it, but it's very fascinating. So, and you know how it has, katanas have these nice curves to them. But what happens is that when it's being actually smithed and worked in it's being, what do you call it? You call it wrought anyway in the smithy. It is straight, but then they put this clay on it, which changes how it cools. It cools less at the top and more or faster at the bottom, and then it's plunged into this water. It looks like a trough, like a sort of drinking trough for horses or something like that. And then when it comes out, it's got this curve because of the cooling having happened at different times for the top and the bottom of the sword. Very fascinating stuff. And also just the way they make the base material, the iron for it is absolutely fascinating. So there was a video also on, I think it was YouTube, many years ago, where somebody showed the process from making the iron to, which has a very specific sort of mixture of oxygen, and yeah, it's quite fancy stuff. And it's quite highly skilled, to create a sort of a high quality one. Now, of course, it is a weapon that has been hyped up a lot because of all the legends and the cultural significance, and all those things that are attached to it. It is by no means a super weapon. It's an interesting, it's a beautiful sword. It's quite a comfortable one to use. I've not used a good quality one. I've just used a sort of a very cheap one with it's with a plastic pommel as well, which means it was actually not balanced properly. But it's, I think it's a cultural, people find that sort of samurai culture very fascinating, and therefore it's been imbued, as it were, with mythological powers that it doesn't have. And you'll find lots of videos on YouTube sort of debunking how the katana is like the best sword ever, and also how katana techniques are the best techniques for using a sword ever as well. But it's still interesting and fascinating, and I think for me, a lot of that sort of enthusiasm somebody has for trying to create something perfect, I think is what it's about. So it's an art form in a way. So it's sort of, you're always reaching for perfection. You're always trying to refine a technique that does a certain thing, even though that thing might not be the ideal thing for the actual purpose of the weapon as a weapon, it still makes it a kind of ideal thing for the purpose of the weapon as art. And that is also a good thing, I think. Anyway, I'm digressing seriously now. So anyway, plunging your sword into the hard flame, and that reminded me of the making of the samurai sword. Right, so you walk forward and plunge your sword into the cauldron. Suddenly there is a great cry. You see a dark shadow writhing and smell a filthy stench. Oof. The figure clutches at its left knee in italics, and this is, I'm quite sure this is a clue to later. So I'm guessing now, I'm still guessing, and I'm still quite sure that at some point, when you finally meet August, there will be an option to go for his legs, or maybe go for his left leg as opposed to his right leg, and the left knee is Achilles' heel. It's the August knee, as it were, which will be the trick to defeating him. When you lift the blade out, it is at first invisible. Then it takes on its old shape and shines as never before. Add 2 lock points and 1 skill point. And interestingly now, if we presume that the path that I've taken now is the very correct one, that means that I've regained both skill points that were lost. And at this point, I will have full skill again. As well as probably not having lost that much luck, because there actually been hardly any luck tests on the correct path. A luck test is mostly done on the wrong path, and very often one being unlucky leads to death as well. So, yes, so this is another indication to me, I think, that this might be correct, because it looks like it's balanced out so that by this point you are back at full skill, unless you made some stupid mistakes where you would have lost additional skill points, which is possible. Like, for instance, when you are captured by the orcs and you try to escape, you lose another skill point and stamina as well as you get recaptured, if I remember correctly. So it is possible to actually be worse off at this point. But if you follow the right path and the best path, then at this point you will have your full skill back, which is what you want. If you roll the dice, and still it would be hard. Still it would be really hard to actually win this game using your skill and rolling the dice, as I've mentioned several times in these playthroughs. Right. And also it's another hint here about the left knee, because it says, remember any other secrets you may have gleaned. You then hear the guards of the half flame chanting, and everything disappears. Turn to 100. Right, so 100, we're up here now. You find yourself in a dark chamber. As you stumble around in the gloom, you find a well. Looking down, you see nothing but darkness, and when you throw a rock into it, you hear nothing. You walk around the well and find a rope attached to the inside. There seems to be no other way out of the chamber. Just then you see a small leather purse. Opening it, you find that it contains a silver coin. Do you choose to throw the coin into the well, or will you leave the purse and climb down the rope? Now, the purse, that the silver coin, wakes up a kind of demonic creature. You don't want that. And so you want to use the rope. And actually, that just reminds me as well, there's something about this story, and I don't know, maybe it's also the word kudam as well. There's something about these sort of evil creatures that for some reason reminds me of the Tales of the Arabian Nights, the 1001 Nights, the Scheherazade stories. Now, of course, I haven't read them properly. My mum used to have the whole set. There was it was translated into Norwegian at some point, and there was a sort of a luxury edition that was published when she was quite young, so that would have been in the 60s, I guess. And she actually went out of her way and saved up the money and bought the whole set. Quite a big set, 6 books or something like that. quite expensive, really good quality binding, all that stuff, luxury edition. And she did read some of it to me one time, or at least a lot of the beginning bits, and it sounded quite fascinating, and there was some interesting stuff going on, and interesting names and things. So yeah, there's something about some of the names in this story, even though they're a little bit linguistically inconsistent, as usually is the case for any kind of fantasy book, because, well, most people writing fantasy are not linguists, and so some aspects of the world building might be yeah, a little bit sort of haphazard. But some of the names used in this book, they have a very nice feel to them, and some of them sound a little bit sort of Arabic to me. It could be from that sort of culture. Anyway, that's just another aside that isn't important. Also the demon as well, I suppose. There's sort of something about silver coin, demon in a well. I don't know. That just sounds a bit Arabian Nighty to me. Anyway, let's move on. Maybe I'll read Arabian Nights one day. Although I will probably struggle to find the version I like the best because there are so many translations. Anyway. So I'm going to ignore the purse and climb down the rope and go to 215. You grab the rope and climb down, hand over hand. There are a few footholds and your arms get very tired because you don't have good climbing technique, as I've mentioned before. When you're climbing, you're supposed to climb with your legs. You only use your arms to support yourself. To hold on, and you don't move your arms, you just hold on as you are shifting your legs. Right. Suddenly you feel a draft and see a hole on the left and a similar hole on the right. You think that you can swing to either side, but you can only pick one side. Which do you choose? And in the past, I have gone left and right, and there's a circle on the right here which indicates to me that I thought that going to the right was the correct choice. So I'm going to again go to the right, 373, although you never know, because correct choices in this game, as I've seen before, might be a red herring. So there you go. You swing to the right, the rope breaks as you land, and you scramble up into the darkness. When you look around, you see two red dots in the distance. They are getting nearer and are accompanied by a strange buzzing sound. Do you attack, or do you wish to leap back to the other shaft? So... I'm going to attack 248. If I remember correctly, it was nothing special. I suppose with the red glowing dots, it's almost like they're sort of making you think that, oh, he has another cooldown or something like that. You swing your sword just below the red dots, but you fail to make contact. One red dot moves to the right, the other to the left. Tabasha the Bazook is as curious as you about them. She jumps down and catches one of the dots. It is some kind of fly. The Bazook eats it and then proceeds to catch the other fly. She does not offer it to you, which means it's not good food for you to eat. You scout around and find two possible exits, a large tunnel leading up or a narrow tunnel on the level. And in the past, I have gone... That leads there. There. Okay. 393. Where is this? Okay, somewhere you get there. 203. Let's have a little look here. I'm gonna go with narrower tunnel at the moment. So at this point, I'm not sure exactly where I go from here. So probably next time, for my next playthrough, I'm gonna have to start somewhere up here and make different choices if I don't get to the end now and sort of know what's what. Because I don't know. There might be some kudarms hiding here somewhere. We saw the earlier ones. If you made a little bit of a wrong choice, you actually just bypassed them. So, well, there's two of them you actually just bypassed without even knowing they were there if you made the wrong choices. So, the tunnel begins to break up. First, there are small rocks to climb over, then large boulders, until it becomes very difficult to make any headway. As you climb up and down, you come to a mass of tree roots interweaved throughout the rest of the tunnel. You try to cut your way past, but each blow causes the roots to ooze sap, which then congeals and quickly forms another root. Well, this was the tree of life, yeah. You examine the roots carefully and see the three distinct areas through which you might crawl. You choose to head upwards, downwards, or left. So at this point, new page of map, it seemed that going upwards was a good choice. There seems to be some advantages to be had from going up. So I'm going to go upwards. 2, 3, 7. You force your way through the roots. They seem to tighten as you pass, and you realize that there is no going back. Tabisha squeezes out in front of you and tries to guide you. Suddenly, there is a shriek, and there in front of her is a grim, furry creature with small eyes and large claws. The bazooka extends her own claws, bares her fangs, and attacks. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, Tabisha loses the fight, and you are left defenseless as the vile creature attacks your face. Your quest is over. One of many such instances of luck being the only thing standing between going on and dying. If you're lucky, Tabisha wins and drags the creature into a break in the tangled roots. You continue until the roots open out into a space beneath a vast, hollow wooden shaft. There are spiral cuts in the shaft. You climb up or squeeze into another hole. Now this is also where I haven't tried going anywhere else, but it seems the correct path is to climb. Is it? Should I try something else this time just to see what happens? No, I probably should try something else than what I've tried before here, because I don't know. The thing is that you get here and you get sort of a splinter of the tree of life, which sounds like it's something that you should be getting. I think I'll just follow the path that I've done before, because I think this is just a pickup bit of the path that needs to be done, maybe. So I'm going to climb up, 1, 3, 3. You climb up the spiral shafts until you come to a chamber hacked out of wood. Along the walls stand figures made of wood. Each one holds a sword. As you watch, one of the figures slowly turns into flesh and moves in front of you, sword at the ready. You hear a creaking, rumbling voice. Intruder, you will die. Woodman, skill 6, stamina 8. If you win, the figure collapses, and before you rise, the wounds begin to heal up as the body turns to wood again. Turn to 81. As you rest from your labors, you notice the other figures turning to flesh. You start to run, but crash into someone. Where would you run to? You're in a chamber, but you just, yeah, okay. Crash into someone standing behind you. He looks at the figures and speaks in a muted tone. They slowly change back to wood. You look at him. He is huge with a large beard, very strong, and carries a massive two-headed axe. Turn to 63. He sniffs at you. You smell of the toplands. Well met. He slaps you on the back, and your sword begins to glow. I am Gregory, son of Baldwin, son of Edwin, son of Eleanor, daughter of Dermot the Freeman, whose cousin Kevin Knucklesnap fought with Tancred at the Chasms of Gloom. My mother's kin, Gregory proceeds to relate a complete family tree as you follow him. Turn to 313. He takes you through a maze of roots and then up a wooden staircase. Everything is made of wood. You follow him along a hacked-out wooden corridor to a large, intricately carved door. Inside, an old man lies on a bed of fine roots. His own limbs seem to merge into the surrounding wood. Here is a toplander. Is he the answer to the prophecy? Asks Gregory. The old man stirs. There is a loud cracking sound. The tree of life is being poisoned by evil, he says. Soon all will be bleak and barren. The prophecy calls on me to offer you one of two items. Which do you choose? A bag of gold or a sliver of everlasting wood? And faced with such a difficult choice, obviously you would choose the sliver of everlasting wood, which is the only properly unique item. 278. You choose wisely. All the gold of the chasms will not help if the evil seeps up and saps the tree of life. Mark the everlasting wood on your adventure sheet. Have I made a note on the map, which is where I'm using? So everlasting wood. So there we are. 278. 278. If you get a chance to cook your food, use it again and again. The old man begins to stiffen up and you can detect wood grain appearing on his skin. Gregory takes you to the end of the wooden tunnels and into the rocky ones. He shakes your hand and leaves you. Add 2 luck points. So, it doesn't sound like an essential item, but it just sounds like it's the correct path. Now, there is a possibility, of course, that if I'd taken any of the other directions now, I would have bumped into a coup down. I don't know. But we'll find out later. At the moment, this is where I'm going, and until I find out that I haven't followed the correct path, I will probably keep going this particular one again. So, 112. The heat increase. No, hang on. Did I say 112? 122. No, hang on. Did I misread the paragraph reference there? Oh yes, you walk along trying to get a splinter out of your hand. After a while, the tunnel begins to get unbearably hot. Turn to 112. Okay, then it makes sense what happens next. I just didn't finish reading. So, the heat increases and the dim red light in the distance becomes very bright. And the ground trembles as you eventually come to a fast-flowing river of lava. The path leads to a row of stepping stones, and you have no other way to go but across. Halfway to the other side, you see a figure holding a crossbow aimed at your heart. She orders you to drop your sword into the river. You are 3 steps from her. You drop your sword in the lava or risk rushing across. Now, this is where I thought, surely dropping the sword into the lava might be a terrible idea, but my sword has been tempered in flame that is made it able to withstand evil. Surely it can withstand a little bit of lava. So I was thinking, I'm going to try to just drop it in, because surely the book isn't going to let me get rid of my sword that easily. Surely not. You drop the sword and watch it sink slowly into the scorching stream. She motions you to walk across. As you do so, Tabitha leaps down and rubs herself on the woman's leg. Oh. The woman searches you and is obviously disappointed at finding nothing of value. Tabitha the Bazook leaps on to the woman's shoulder and looks at you. So it sounds like this is actually not an evil person. It's somebody that is approved. It's Tabitha approved. You can see that the sword has risen out of the stream and is lying close to the bank. Do you grab the sword, do nothing, get Tabitha to help? Okay. Interesting choices, and very different from what happened last time if you rush, because then you actually fight this person. Oops, that's not very clear, is it? I'll just do it like that. Okay. Okay. So this is 276, 3, 9, 4 or 11. So help, nothing, or sword. Now, since there's an option for publisher to help, I'll just go with that. So I'm going to go to 11 and see what happens if I ask publisher. Oh, so this is an evil person then. You look at Tabasha as if to say, do what you can. The cat purrs and turns around on her shoulders as the woman raises her crossbow to shoot you. Suddenly the bazooka pierces her good eye with a sharp claw. The woman screams and the crossbow fires, but the arrow misses you. She flails about in a blind rage and falls into the lava stream. Horrible screams are soon just echoes in the cabin. Okay, that's a bit... So, if I grab my sword, does that mean to just start fighting then? 2, 7, 6... You make a grab for the sword, she fires. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, you're dead before you hit the ground. Okay, so it's another one of those unlucky means death kind of thing. At least it's better than insta-deaths in a way. At least you have a chance to avoid them. Okay, the handle of your sword is red hot. It scorches your skin. Deduct 2 stamina points. Just to check the last option, 3, 9, 4. She actually fires. She shoots her crossbow at me if you do that. So, so actually getting help from Tabisha isn't that bad an idea in this case. At least it's the safest thing to do. So 203, which is not, yes, it is down here on my. So let's see. 203 down there. Okay. So, which means that at this point, you actually, the paths of turning when you go into the well, of going one direction has merged with the path where you get to when you take the other direction. So the only main difference is you get the everlasting wood, and there might be something else happening, but we don't know yet in the when you are underneath the tree of life. So there might be some other options that actually are essential, but I'll find out in time. After a long walk, you stop for a rest at a comfortable-looking rock. You are now embarking on the most dangerous phase of your quest. Check your adventure sheet for luck, skill, stamina, and provisions. Check your abilities and any special knowledge gleaned so far. So this is sort of a turning point. This is the last part of the book, presumably. Okay. You stab the sword into the ground and you see a wisp of blue smoke swirl out of the hilt until it becomes the face of a warrior knight. The face looks at you and begins to speak. You are my heir and have proved yourself fit to carry my sword. Beware. Now that you are close to the evil of Oguz, I will grant you the spell of life. Use it once when you are in the greatest need. So, spell of life. So again, this sounds like a paragraph that you absolutely need to get to, possibly. The image fades and a small parchment flutters to your feet. You pick it up. It is covered in antique runes that have no meaning for you. Mark the spell on your adventure sheet. Use it once only. If your stamina has been reduced to 0 in any combat. In such a case, you may carry on as though you have won the fight, with a stamina score of 4. Do not use it unwisely, for it is a strong spell and you will have to reduce your skill by 1 after using it. 10 to 310. Okay, so that's not essential then. It's just nice to have. You are now refreshed and feel able to set off on your quest for the shield. After a long time, you come to what looks like a stone sentry post. On either side of the tunnel, there are 2 small slits in the rock. You rush past quickly, 73, or do you crouch down and crawl under the slits? Sounds like the wise thing to do. crouching, that is, not rushing. You crouch down and edge past the slits. Suddenly the ground gives way and you fall into a slimy pit. 6 Hokusai orcs appear. They are jubilant. You hear one of them ask if it is time for Fellscar Crags. He then throws a small round creature into the pit. The animal exudes a disgusting smell that sends you to sleep. Turn to 64. Okay. So, does that mean that rushing might actually be better? So I've been here before, and I don't know, it doesn't sound like the best option, does it? You know what, let's just try, see what happens if I rush past, because obviously I've not done that before, I've done the other thing. So see what happens when I rush. Okay, so 73. So you race past and kick a trip line, which disturbs a mass of dwarf skulls. As they rattle, they alert half a dozen orcs from the elite fighting Hokusai, who rush out and chase you. Unlike most of the orc warrior clans, they do not squabble among themselves, but follow with speed, efficiency, and cunning. So like the Uruk-hai, I suppose. Do you run up some stairs on the left or go straight ahead? So we've got 2 options. I'll just put them over on this side here. Okay. So 240 or 182 stairs and straight. I'm going to go up the stairs. 182. Aha! Aha! Kudam. Okay. You run up the steps, go through a metal door and close it behind you. Just then you hear deep breathing and hissing. Tancred's blood airs. You are face to face with a Kudam. I am Barkek Kudam. My master waits for you. He approaches. You can see the blood dripping from his long, thin fangs. He moves his black cloak aside and pulls out a jagged-edged sword full of treacherous rip hooks. It's Khudam Barkek. Skill 10, stamina 12. If you win, the Khudam disappears, leaving only his black cloak across the Khudam. Okay, so it seems to me that the correct choice here is to rush and then go up the stairs, because you need a Khudam. If you see a Khudam, that means it's a correct choice, surely. So we got here Khudam Barkek Khudam. Maybe I should go with Khudam. Khudam. It sounds better, doesn't it? It sounds much more sinister. Say Khudam Barkek. Khudam. Yes, go with the Khudam of the goose. Okay. As you stand and stare at the empty cloak, a group of orcs rush in and hit you over the head. Turn to 64. So then you are led to this bit, inevitably, regardless. So this is the only difference. That means that this must be the correct one here. So okay, obviously I'm winning this battle because, well, it's finding the path now. So that means I've got 3 Khudam left to fight. 64. And some of these, that's another one that's a little bit sneaky to discover. So in this game, which actually I quite like, and I think I prefer this to the shopping lists approach of Ian Livingstone, instead of having to find the right items and pick them up, there are things you have to do in specific locations instead. I like that approach better in a way. So yeah, so so you have to find 7, instead of finding 7 items, you have to kill 7 Khudam. So yeah, makes sense. Okay, 64. You wake up to find yourself chained to a rack on a great cliff top, overlooking a vast cavern. Your sword and belongings are still on you, and you can feel tabasha in your pockets. Standing all around are orcs wearing the fighting armor of the mailed fist, the symbol of the elite Hokusai orcs. The captain stands next to you and is obviously waiting for someone. Dan Khudam, kill my soldiers for sport and then don't turn up for the chase. Okay, so this is, interestingly, of course, this happens even if you approach this without having killed the Khudam, you actually get the orc complaining that Khudam is actually not showing up. So this is the Khudam that would have been in charge of this particular ritual, let's call it that. We'll get to this in a moment. Dan Khudam, kill my soldiers for sport and then don't turn up for the chase. A nearby lieutenant reminds him that the ceremony must begin at the appointed time laid down by the prophecy of Mukina Khadun. At the mention of this word, all the Hokusai orcs kneel down and stab their daggers into the ground. Then the captain calls out, "The chase has begun. Release the prey and summon the griffins." Now, if you wanted to start the ritual right at the very time that you are there, would it not then have made more sense for them to already have someone else prepared and ready to be the one being chased? I don't know, just saying. Okay. Your bonds are cut and the drum pounds out a regular rhythm until the flapping of wings, and I suppose some time might have passed though. Yes, some time might have passed from when you got captured and until the ritual starts. So that's fair dues. Until the flapping of wings and snarling and snapping announced the arrival of the griffins, flying, fire-breathing creatures, each with the body of a lion and the wings of a dragon. The drum beats, and you are pushed forward to the edge of the cliff as the orcs recite an incantation in a strange dialect, or strange language, probably more like. Finally, you are pushed down onto a narrow ledge and told to run for your life. Turn to 138. Okay, so this is another kind of sort of puzzle maze that you have to just get through, I guess. Now, I was able to get through it last time, so I'm just going to go with the same thing. I'm presuming now that there are no more Khudam for me to kill here. It makes sense that I was the only one in this particular section. We'll see. So I'm going to go to, let's see where we're now, 138. So you notice that the ledge divides into two. You hear the drum and the chanting as you edge along the small ledge. Suddenly you notice that the ledge divides into two. And which one do you take? The one sloping down to the left or the one going down to the right? And going down to the right, it looks like a way out. 3, 4, 6. The beat of the drum stops and you hear a cheer as you edge your way down the steep slope. You see 3 routes ahead of you. Which do you choose? Ledge to the left, drop down to a lower ledge, or slope to the right. Slope to the right is the wrong choice, so 220 lower ledge seems to have worked in the past. I'm going to go with that again. You're on the ledge leading to the left. You can hear the clamour of pursuit as the orcs chase you with great fanaticism. Suddenly you slip off the ledge. The sword falls out of your hands as you catch onto the ledge with your fingertips. An orc appears below you and stabs you in the foot. Deduct 1 stamina point. Do you haul yourself back onto the ledge above or drop down to the lower ledge? Makes sense to drop down to the lower ledge to get your sword, if nothing else. 293. You land on top of the orc and he falls off the ledge. Add 1 lock point. You find your sword stuck in a crack on the rocks below and pick it up. You can hear shouts and screams getting closer. Turn to 379. 3 fanatical orcs rush at you. 1 slips and falls off the ledge. Fight the other 2 in 1 strike combat, which means 50-50 chance of dying, basically. If you win, you can choose to drop down to a lower ledge or to take a slope on the right. And this is where yes, it looks like Let's see. So I don't know exactly. Oh, hang on. I'll be very close now to the end that I was before. I'm going to keep going this way. Let's see. Lower ledge, 195. I'm not trying to get as low as possible. It is possible. I'm supposed to do that. You're on a wider ledge, but you see no way to get further down. An orc finds you and you take him on in one strike combat. Again, 50-50% chance of survival. If you win, you discover 3 ropes hanging down the smooth precipice into the darkness. Another orc appears. If you win this one strike combat, do you choose to go down the rope on the left, the rope on the right, or do you think the rope in the middle would be the correct choice? So, is one of these ropes the right one? I'm going to go with the right one, because maybe the right one is the right one, which is 58. You climb down the rope and reach the base of Fellscar Crags. You wait to see if there is anyone following, but no one appears. It sounds like maybe I found the way out of this particular one now. Add 1 luck point. Okay, so 1 luck. Tabisha jumps out and goes off hunting. On her return, she is dragging a large red fish. You eat the fish, add 4 stamina points. If eaten raw, add 2 extra points if you have fuel to cook with, which you have, of course, with the everlasting wood now. Tabisha the Bazook does not eat anything until you finish, and then she eats all the bones. As your eyes get used to the strange red glow of the vast cavern, you set off in no particular direction. After a while, you come across a well-made road with deep cartwheel ruts in the stone. It heads dead straight into the distance. You follow the road, turn to 304, head off to the left, or go to the right. Didn't I see something with the road before? I saw something with the road before, didn't I? Yes. Here as well. Okay, so it's possible to get to, but now I have other options as well as this one. So now I can go to 304, head off to the left, 259, another option, or go to the right, 136. Okay, so at the moment there are a few new options as well as the one that I have found before. So 136 right, 259 left. Maybe I should put that over this way. I don't know. Right, so over here we found the end last time, but I didn't have to make it the end last time. It was just time, I suppose. We are coming up to 2 hours, by the way, on this video, so I am getting closer to the point where I will call it the end. I have learned a few new things this time. I found how to sense fight, and I found another Khudam, and I'm quite sure of the correct path in the beginning until roughly this point, which means I don't have to backtrack as far for the next one, so we'll see. I'm going to turn right over here, 136. But there was I've got a circle here. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. 136, I can't remember what that is. Let's see what that is again. 186. Oh, yeah, so this is where you... Oh, yeah, maybe that is the correct path, because you are putting on an armor. Okay, so I'm going to try that now. Maybe I'll have a look at 136 first, and then I'm going to do the other one, if that seems to be... You set off on the right-hand track. As you walk along, you see a lot of evidence of digging and mining. Suddenly you see a goblin get out of a hole and stand with his back to you, waving a wand. You choose to attack, jump left, or jump to the right. Why would you jump anywhere? Why is jumping an option? Okay, so... So 384 left, 121 right, and 226 attack. I'm going to attack. You run towards the goblin. He hears you and spins around. You are powerless as he weaves a spell with his wand. A blue ring encircles your mouth and then begins to tighten its grip. Instinctively, you will Tabisha to help. Mark 1 use on your adventure sheet. I've used her about, what, 3-4 times now? If you have used up your 9, then your quest is over. She darts out and grabs the wand in her mouth. The spell is broken and you have time to pull out your sword for combat. If you win, you look around and find some emaciated Gadon bodies near a mineshaft, but nothing else. Turn to 259. Which means that you are then over here. So maybe there's nothing interesting going on here, possibly. 5, 6. Checking out the other options just quickly. 176. Yeah, anyway, it seems like that's leading somewhere else, or some other option to get into Augus's place, possibly. But I'm going to follow where I was led to now. 259, first of all. 259. You walk along a rough track for many miles. The cabin is huge and you cannot see an end to it. But in the distance you can see thick smoke. You stop for a rest when suddenly you hear someone cough behind you. You spin around to find a strange, long-bearded man laden with trinkets. He smiles and introduces himself as Pierscat, the trader. His eyes light on Tabisha and the sword, and he asks you if you would like to look at his goods. Do you agree or refuse? Sounds like he wants to steal the cat and my sword, more like. I'm going to put the options... okay. That's room over here. I'm going to move my options over here now. So 213 or 147. I'm going to have a look at his goods, even though it seems like a crook. I'm curious what he has. He lays out all his exotic wares. He has everything, even truffles from Gorak. You see a small tarnished ring and asks him what it is. It tells you it is a Gadon ring with one of their strange inscriptions on it. Yours for your gauntlets, he says. Do you accept the trade? Do I have gauntlets? I didn't know I had gauntlets. Do I trade my gauntlets that I didn't know I had? Yeah, let's just do that then. Let's say 3, 5, 5, 8. Trade or no. Okay, I'm going to trade my gauntlets for a ring. You hand over the gauntlets and he eagerly gives you the ring. He then packs up and trundles off, singing a familiar ballad. You look at the ring. In a small panel on the inner surface you see ... and other dots. If you know the cipher, speak it now and go to that section. If you do not, nothing happens and you put the ring away. Mark it under abilities on your adventure sheet. Turn to 369. So we've got 369 or secret paragraph number, and I'll just have to look at that for a moment. So we've got 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. So that is 31. So paragraph 31. You have uttered the correct cipher. At first nothing happens, but then you hear an aged voice that tells you of the ring. It was fashioned to make sense warriors invisible in any one combat. Use it wisely. So it's another thing that isn't necessary, but that might help you if you, of course, follow the rules entirely. So let's see, +2 luck, and then we have ring invisibility. There we are. Okay. You may fight anyone without any loss of stamina, turn to 369, but of course that's what I do anyway now because of the way I'm playing this game. That's alright, but it's nice to have these little things in the game, I think. 369. You set off along the rocky track. Soon the ground gets soft and then becomes marshy. You have difficulty walking on the path. Strange, eerie noises come from the marsh, which occasionally bubbles, releasing a pungent odor. Oof. The path divides. Do you go to the left or do you choose the path on the right? Do we have any of these references already? I don't think I do. So we have 271 and 318, left or right. So I'm going to go to the right. Let's put just a marsh. Future reference 271. The marsh gets deeper. You have to wade up to your knees. Just then you hear flapping sounds and see two shapes moving towards you. Do you move off the path to hide behind a large rock or stay where you are? So we can move off or stay. 115 or 137. Stay or hide. I'm going to just stay. 137. You fear leaving the path and so stand still, sword at the ready. The two figures suddenly stop and sniff at you. They are marsh goblins with huge, flat, webbed feet. They pull out small, curved daggers and look at you suspiciously. One of them hisses. Toplander. The other shouts. What are you doing here? You should be with the others. Give me that sword. Do you hand it over or attack? Okay. Now, the most interesting thing probably happens if you give them the sword. See, hand over or attack. See, 183. I'm going to hand over my sword because, yeah, it'll be more interesting that way, I think. You give up your sword to the leading marsh goblin, realizing that they have mistaken you for another toplander, and you think that you could use this to your advantage. Then the first marsh goblin pulls out a metal collar and asks if you would like to wear it. You will be more comfortable while we get you back. Do you agree to wear the collar or refuse? I don't want to wear the collar because that will be the end of it, won't it? So I'm going to, let's see, 389 or 295, refuse or wear. I'm going to refuse, so I might have to kill them after all. You politely refuse. The other marsh goblin, who calls himself Hoodwink, looks at you as though you do not know what you will be missing. They grab you and sling you over their shoulders and begin to run over the marsh, humming a strange tune. They have great stamina and do not stop. After a time you enter an encampment. Words and curses are exchanged and you are deposited in a room and given hideous black slime to eat. Do you eat it or do you throw it out of the window? I think I'm just going to go to the next page now. Let's see, oh, that's not that one, this one. So 295, and that leads to 185. Let's see, 185 and 354. So we got next page, FF30, sheet number 4 of our map, and 295. 295, leading back to 26, And that has two options, which is eating or 3, 5, 4. Window, eat. I don't know, it doesn't sound very appetizing. I'm gonna not eat that. 3, 5, 4, 3, 4, 4. Okay. Soon a group of toplanders arrive and stretch out on the hard beds. Some are wearing metal collars. They do not talk but just stare blankly. You realize that there must be toplander recruits in Orguz's hordes, some pressed into service. Others volunteers. They treat you like a new recruit, and when the drum beats, you strap on your sword and they take you out to line up with the others. In the courtyard you see a knight in full armor, inspecting the troops. You cannot see the face, but notice the crossed daggers motif on the armor. You suspect that this might be the traitor at Gorak, who broke the Great Seals. When the inspection is over, do you slip away in the dark, or go back to the barracks with the others? Okay, so was this part of... because I did get to the point last time where I was sort of, something to do with recruits as well, but oops, that doesn't seem to be the same place that I was with the other time. So, let's sit up properly. Okay, so I've got two options, either slipping out or staying in the barracks. Let's see, so 3, 8, 8 or 55. Barracks or slip away. I'm going to stay in the barracks just to see what happens if you do. When you get back, one of the marsh goblins pads into the room with 2 knights and points to you. They rush over to grab you, and you pull out your sword. Fight each in turn. Okay, so that seems like that is the wrong option. You have to actually sneak off in the dark because you have been found out not to be a true recruit. So there's an 8, 8 and a 7, 8. And we go to 388 regardless. Okay. You turn down a narrow alleyway between 2 rock-built huts. You hear a disturbance behind you, then the sound of a drum beating, followed by the clatter of iron-shod orc feet. You look along the alley. You can go either to the left or to the right. So we go to the left and right. 300 is left and 209 is right, and that's still not, let's double checking now that we don't have anything like that before. Okay, right, I have finished my tea, which means that if I don't save the world soon, I'll have to make myself another cuppa. Right, I'm going to go to the right, 209. You rush along the path past an entrance to a hut. Someone is about to step out, so you stop and hide behind a pillar. You hear a voice. If it's who I think it is, I've been spotted. I want the intruder killed at once. There is a hiss in reply. Then, we will catch the blood air. Do not worry. Toplanders like yourself have a very distinct smell. Then you hear sniffing. So here's another Khudam, and also the traitor is here as well, it sounds like. So, interesting. Do you stay where you are or choose to run past hut entrance? So, I want to stay where I am because I want to... Do I want to get discovered? I certainly want to get at this Khudam. So, 127, stay. Or 269, run. 127. You try to hide, but the Khudam steps out and smells you straight away. It hisses and spits as it pulls out a scimitar and attacks. If you have a field brethren ring, you may use it now. You will not be hurt because the Khudam will not sense you and may strike, and you may strike at will. So this is Khudam Grifkek. Did I put the name of the... Yes, Barkek was the previous one I defeated. So we have here 127. Khudam Griff. Okay, and that is Khuddam number 5. Okay. Also 10, 12. So each of these Khuddam battles are really hard. You escape in the dark, turn to 298. So we have here 298. So is it possible there was more than one Khuddam here? Maybe, maybe not. It seems to be most common that there's one Khuddam in each place where there are sort of soldiers. And of course there was an additional one because the chief Khuddam was also in the place where within the lava moat, of course. There were 2 there. The other places there's only been 1. So yeah. Okay. 298 is where we go. You are very tired. You decide to have a rest and eventually find a small hill crowned with large boulders, a good defensive position. You are awakened by Tabisha trying to crawl back into your pocket. It is pitch black. You pull out your sword and it shines brightly as you listen to shrieks, snarls, and murmurings all around. Suddenly you see a dark figure with long dagger-like nails rushing towards you. You strike at it with your sword or run out of the way. Okay. Why would I run out of the way? Seems a strange option. I'm going to so run, strike. I'm going to try to strike it with my sword. Thank you very much. You swing your sword at the figure, but it passes right through you. No, right through it. And then the figure passes through you. You stand there amazed as several others take the same path. Looking around by the light of the sword, you find a strange spiky plant covered with small furry animals and what looks like the remains of an orc impaled on its long lethal prongs. You assume that the illusion was created by the plant to catch its prey. Suddenly you see a group of riders following your trail. Ahead is a tall volcano with hewn steps leading to the top. You run up the steps or skirt around the base of the volcano. That's a lot of things to suddenly see, isn't it? Almost a kind of a bizarre combination of things. Let's see, 56. Because a moment before it was completely dark, and then suddenly you pull out your sword and you see things, and then you see somebody following you and you see a volcano. By the light of the sword. By the light of the sword. Okay, 116. 116. Climb or base. I want to go around the base of the volcano. The volcano must be where Oguz lives. You run straight into a patrol of 6 mounted Hokusai orcs. They all throw spears at you. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, you are wounded. They capture you and fit a metal collar on you. Oguz now has you in his power and you can do nothing. Your quest is over. If you're lucky, they all miss and you turn back up the steps of the volcano. Turn to 56. There's a lot of story going on in that paragraph, isn't it? Okay, so luck, and again it's unlucky. Unlucky, you die, basically. So your quest is over. That's the main thing, isn't it? So again, it's leading you in the direction you have to go, which is up the steps. Now, you rush up the steps and look up to see lava dribbling down from the lip of the volcano. As you climb, a large vampire bat occasionally swoops down and attacks you. Throw 2 dice. If you throw any double, you have been bitten. Reduce your stamina by the value of 1 die. Behind you, the chasing riders halt. They do not follow, but watch you carefully to see if you turn back. Suddenly there is a spray of lava. Throw a die. This is your position. Throw a second die. This is where the lava lands. Again, doubles, you die. If the 2 numbers match, you have been hit by the lava, reduce you, well, stamina, 2 points in this case. Now you reach the top of the steps and come to a large entrance above which you see left, danger, and right, safe. You enter the volcano, turn 2, 3, 5, 6. What's the point of showing me these if they are not part of a choice? Maybe it's to do with what happens next when you go into it. Okay, so. But interestingly, of course, now I haven't actually met the old man in the iron cave. I don't actually know these symbols, so I'm still a bit puzzled as to whether it's possible to learn these symbols anywhere else. Because at the moment, it doesn't look like you can learn them on the correct path, which seems a bit strange. 3, 5, 6. Now, these last few paragraphs, it sounds to me like somebody is rushing a little bit in the writing process, because suddenly there's several things happening in each paragraph, when it normally would have made sense to spread it out a little bit. So there you go. The entrance is steep, it is very hot, and the chamber is illuminated by a light red glow. You look back to see the bats flocking, but not coming in. Bats. Wasn't there just one earlier? A large vampire bat. Now there's bats. Ahead you see 2 large holes. Do you go through the one on the left or the one on the right? Now it says danger, but danger to whom? Danger to the ones who are supposed to be in the volcano, or danger to potential intruders who might know what the symbols mean? Also, do I want to go towards the danger because the danger might be this is where the Khodam lives, and so do I want to actually go where there's danger? Possibly. So it is, and of course earlier when those symbols were used, I actually wanted to go to the point where it said danger. So I don't know. It's just a bit. It's a little bit somehow this one. So 171 left and 218 right. So just to recap that 356, it said that, no, 56, it said that left was danger and right was safe. I'm going to go save my game, as it were, and I'm going to go left to see what the danger is, because I might want the danger. The danger, I am the danger, potentially. In this case, actually, it is danger, and you're not supposed to go there, because you climb into the smelly hole, and the entrance snaps shut behind you. By the glow of your sword, you see large fangs all around. You realize that you are in the mouth of a huge beast. You are crushed and swallowed by the Hydra in the volcano. So this is the end, but I'm going to just press on now. Actually, that's the first or second proper insta-death anyway this game. I'm going to ignore that now because I saved my game, obviously. So I'm going to tell right. You're in another chamber. There is a hideous smell of rotting flesh. Ahead are 2 more holes. Will you go in the hole on the left or the one on the right? Is the Hydra has several heads, obviously. Are all the ones on the left the Hydra? Is the question. 3, 4, 3. It might be that all the lefts are danger, all the right are correct. 3, 4, 3 left, 71 right. So I'm going to stick to the right now because Hydra has more than one head and more than one, yeah. You're in another chamber. The volcano rumbles and the ground shakes. Ahead are 2 other holes. Do you wish to go left or right? So maybe this is, you have to pass all the heads of the Hydra. Maybe there are only 3. 3 makes a nice number, do you think? Don't you think? 177 left and 327. Right, I want to keep going right. Thank you very much. 327. You have made it through the volcano of the Hydra. Okay, so all these left ones are the heads of the Hydra in that case. No one will follow you through it. You come out back into the vast cavern but have lost all sense of direction. You stop to rest. Tabasha jumps down and goes hunting, but brings back nothing. She looks a little distressed and has bits of her fur pulled out in places. You get up and see 2 small figures ahead of you, carrying a block of stone. Do you decide to head for them or avoid them? If they're carrying a block of stone, they are workers, which means they are not actually evil. They've just been drafted in probably to be there. So we got avoid or meet. I'll just put meet there. I'm going to head for them and see what the deal is. 2, 3, 3. You get nearer and notice that they are small trogs. They have a cart harnessed to 2 koyunlu and loaded with square blocks. They are busy cutting out the blocks from a quarry. You hide your sword and offer to help them. At first they run away, but soon come back when you start to haul the stone blocks into the cart. You tell them that you are lost and have got a message for Oguz from his servants in the Toplands. They are very simple folk and accept your story without hesitation. They tell you that they are in the process of... It's getting a bit dark in here, actually. I just realized. Let's get a bit more light in now. They are in the process of repairing a breach in the outer wall of the tower and that they will take you most of the way. While they pack up their tools, you notice a roll of parchment in the cart. Do you look at it or prefer not to? So, of course, they might find you out if you have a look at it now, but I'm going to do that anyway. Hopefully I'll do it sneakily so that I'm not found out. And 270 or 53, look or not. It is a map of the outer wall fortifications to Oguz's tower. The quarry is marked and you work out the direction. On the section of the wall distinguished by a dagger symbol, there is a scrawled cross, and you suspect that this is where the breach is. Carefully roll up the parchment. Turn to 53. So this is a hint, possibly a clue. Let's see, hint. So I'll just put here breach in wall. Now I've got 2 Khodam left, and I suspect that they're probably with Oguz. It makes sense for him to have 2 lieutenants present, I suppose. So I'm not going to presume to find any more until I'm actually getting very close. Okay, when everything is packed and ready, the trogs set off. You sit at the back of the cart and listen to the one called Cliptongue sing a song about cutting limbs of various creatures. Suddenly the cart stops and the trogs stare into the distance. You follow their gaze and see a group of riders heading towards you. Do you leap off the cart or stay? Now, these riders, are these the same ones that were chasing me earlier, maybe? I'm thinking that maybe I should I think I may have outstayed my welcome here. I think they're after me, so 9, leap, or 95, stay. So I'm going to leap off the cart and run off, I think. I know where the... I know, of course, where the breach is, so yeah. You rush to hide behind some rocks. You see the rider stopping by the cart. Suddenly you hear a flapping of wings and look up to see 2 large fanged bats sweeping down. You swing your sword in the air. Test your luck. If you're lucky, you have hit one of them and the other takes a bite out of your neck. Deduct 1 stamina point. If you're unlucky, they both bite you before you kill them. Deduct 4 stamina points. Okay, good luck. The riders head down to where you are hiding. You run away straight into a thick mist. Turn to 92. So, 92. You stumble about in the thick mist. You can hear shrieks and calls far away. Koyunla hoofs on the rock and the clatter of iron-shod orc feet. You can work out the general direction that you were heading for, but for a specific bearing you will have to guess. Which will you choose? So this is some kind of maze again, and it's probably... I was going to sketch this one out on a different sheet of paper, because it could get a bit confusing. 92. So we have bearing A. I'm just going to do them 4 different directions now because I don't know what directions they are. But there might be north, south, east, west. We just don't know which one is which. So 320 A, 243 B, 134 C, and 118 D. So I'm going to start with bearing D. I think is where I will head first. 18. If you have not yet seen it, you come across a huge wall protected by watchtowers. If you have not yet seen it, okay, so this is somewhere you can go in circles maybe. You come across a huge wall protected by watchtowers at intervals of 200 paces. On a plaque ahead you can see a sword symbol. To your left you can make out a dagger symbol. As you get nearer to the wall you see a rope hanging down from the battlements and a dwarf lying face down with several arrows in his back. Do you want to climb the rope or walk to the dagger sector? So I'm going to walk to the dagger sector actually, so I'm going to put these two options up here. So 362 rope or 154 dagger, because dagger sector is where the breach in the wall would be that needs repairing. 154. You find a breach in the wall, but are cautious when you see two stone guardians placed on either side of it. Looking carefully, you see that one of them is cracked down the middle and falling apart. The other creaks to life and attacks you with its strong beak. So these are very nice bird stone guardians. So let's see, so 7, 10. If you win, you pass through the breach, turn to 90. Okay, so this wasn't as complicated as it could have been, but maybe I just got lucky. I'm just going to put this now on my map. So this was 92, and it gave me 4 options. I'm just going to put them up like so actually. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so 320A, 243B, 134C, and 18D, which led to 362 or 154. Okay, dagger. Okay, 7, 10, and rope, which probably will get you killed, just like the dwarf that had arrows in his back. And this leads then to 90, which I think I'll just move on to the next page. So I don't know how much space I'll need for the end game, although it feels like there won't be much left of the book now in terms of paragraphs. 90, there we are. The ground rises until you suddenly come to a sharp drop. You can hear sniffing and snarling getting closer, so you decide to leap into the mist. As you do, you hear sniffing and snarling, you leap into the mist. Yeah, can't see. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, you land badly and break both legs. You lie there until a clumsy troll falls over you. He sees you, licks his lips, and you are never heard of again. Again, failed luck roll, loads of them, and you die. If you're lucky, turn to 364. So, I don't know, it's a bit somehow. The chances of dying in this game are just, the odds are, yeah, minuscule. 364. You land safely, add 2 luck points, so +2 luck. And you don't get enough luck points back, I don't think. Slowly, menacingly, the mist clears and you see Orguz's tower, a huge block of stone with one entrance, surrounded by a wide moat of green slime. On each of the 4 corners stand gargoyles that snap, snarl and flap their black wings. The mist begins to close in again and you walk towards the tower. Occasionally you pass an orc, but disappear into the mist before he decides to challenge you. In the thick mist you get to the bridge across the moat, past 2 trolls and stop at a metal door. You may not use the bazooka beyond this point. In the grime you feel this shape. If you know the secret ciphers, you go to that number. If not, you look up to see a small grubby chute. You must climb up to the hole, holding on to the cracks between the stone blocks. Throw a die 12 times. To succeed, you will need 8 throws of 1 to 4. If you fail, you fall into the deadly slime. If you succeed, you climb through the chute and into a smelly room times 224. Okay, so there's 224. Okay, 224. 224. And this is, let's see, so it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 100, 200, 256. So 256 plus 2 is 258. So that is 258. Okay. The door opens easily. You walk into a well-lit room. There are several torches on each wall. Suddenly they flare up and you hear a booming, rasping voice. So, you are here, blood heir. You have come for the shield. You are welcome. But first you must find me. The torches go out and you are left in complete darkness. Something crawls across the back of your neck. The sword does not shine and feels very heavy. You remember from when you walked in that there are 2 exits. Do you go through the door leading north or the door west? On the west door you feel the following pattern. Now, again, on this playthrough it doesn't seem like I actually get to know what these symbols mean. So, still a bit curious about that, but I'll... So let's see, 51 or 170, west and north. So I'm going to go west. I'm not going to be too fussed about it because I've been playing this quite a long time now. And that is actually a trick because the west one is not safe. So you walk into the room and the door snaps shut behind you. There is no handle on the inside. In the middle of the room is a fire in a large iron grate from which sparks shoot out. Suddenly the blaze flares up and destroys everything in the room, including you. So that is the end. But I'm getting so close to the end now, and I think I'd better get to the end because then I'll know whether there's still something left for me to find. So I'm going to have to go back to my previous and in my finger bookmark and 51, and it says here, the door snaps shut after you enter. You realize that the door allows easy access, but will not let you return the way you came. You find yourself in a kind of trophy room. There are swords, spears, suits of armor, and stuffed heads of strange horned beasts. In the corner you see a set of crossbows, and then suddenly hear a twang of the arrows being shot. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, then you are hit by an arrow whose fatal poison acts very quickly. If you're lucky, the arrows miss and you find 3 exits. Which do you choose? So again, luck, that leads to the end. And 3 possible exits. So it's north 40, north, west 224 west, and 292 east. It's interesting how you suddenly know the directions of the compass right in the middle here, rather than left and right and front. Most of the directions in this game have been left and right and forward and so on, which makes more sense because you wouldn't have perfect sense of direction, would you? I'm going to go west. You are in a large kitchen. 2 orcs are shoving disgusting pieces of meat into a large black cauldron. A third orc holds a dagger and is tasting the stew. They do not notice you at first, but when they do, they rush towards you with long carving knives in their hands. One of the orcs slips on some meat and knocks himself out on the stone floor. Fight the other 2 in turn. If you win, do you go over to the orc who slipped on the floor or leave the kitchen by an exit to the north? So 2 options. So let's see, 6, 6, 5, 4. And as usual, I'm going to win that one. So 19 or 3, 3, 7, north. 19. I'm going to check out the orc on the floor. You walk over to the orc. He is reaching for his knife and you prepare to fight. Suddenly, a large chunk of rock drops out of the roof. Throw a die for your position and then throw a second die for where the rock lands. If the 2 numbers match, you are crushed to death. If not, then the rock kills the orc. Add 1 luck point. You take the exit north, 337. Okay, so that is risky. I'm just going to put a red around that. You don't get, well, you could get 1 luck point potentially, but also a chance of dying. 337. You walk into a room with a large table in the middle. Around, under and below the table are trolls, orcs, dark elves, and goblins. They seem to be asleep or drunk. Or both, I suppose. You creep into the room and discover 3 other exits. Which do you choose? North, west, and east. Now it looks like this is quite a little bit of a sort of a dungeon crawl here at the end. And it's all going in the same direction. And very helpfully, it's compass points rather than, oops, I'm not supposed to do that. 83, 1, 2, 2, and 40, north, west, east. I'm going to go north, 1, 2, 2. You are in the army commander's sleeping quarters. There are bundles and blankets everywhere. You creep carefully towards the only door leading east. You must be silent. Throw a die to show the level of silence required to awaken the lightest sleeper. Throw a second die to show the level of noise you make. If it is equal to or greater than the first row, then one of the bundles stairs turn to 36. If not, then you go through the door east, turn to 370. Okay, so this is okay, 2 options. So 36 or 370. Okay, I'm just going to say I'll make that roll and go 370. The door closes behind you. Once again you are in complete darkness. The sword does not shine and you can hear someone moving around in the room. Just then you hear a sword being drawn out of a scabbard and heavy steps walking towards you. You prepare to defend yourself. If you know how to sense fight, I do in this case, then fight as normal, otherwise reduce your skill by 2 for this combat only. Silent Warrior, 9-10. When you find 2 doors, do you go through the door on the left or the door on the right? Suddenly no more compass directions, and back to left and right, which is a little bit inconsistent, I must say. 40 left, 297 right. I'm going to go left. You step into an empty room and hear the voice of Orguz. You cannot escape from me. You cannot escape from me, blood heir, but I will not kill you. You will kill yourself. In this room, your worst nightmares will come to life and grow in intensity until death. So this is room 101. It should have been paragraph 101 as well, wouldn't it? Would not make more sense. Now I'm going to ignore this one again as well and go the other way, because I'm just going to get to the end now. Ahead of you is an intricately carved stone staircase. Also, I found this kind of maze, this is very sort of Ian Livingstone kind of maze. It's a little bit more, it's a bit mundane, a bit cliche, a bit simplistic. You have to pick the right way, and if you pick the wrong way without any hints about what the right way might be, then you die, kind of thing. Which is so different to the rest of the book that it feels a bit out of place to me. Ahead of you is an intricately carved stone staircase depicting various exotic creatures. Some of them appear to move. There is also another door that does not open. You step over a brightly colored snake and make your way upstairs. Turn to 106. Okay. Why am I told there's a door that doesn't open? It's because you can get here from another location, maybe? Might be. Still not necessary information necessarily. When you reach the top of the stairs, you find yourself in a dark chamber. The only light comes from a firing slit in the wall. Suddenly, there are the sounds of scuttling and a chain rattling. Something snarls and rushes towards you from the direction of the stairs. You see 2 doors. Do you go through the exit south or the exit west? Okay. So 180 west or 132 south. I'm going to go south in this case, 132. Yeah, and that's another insta-death. There's loads of them here, clearly. So you walk into the room to see a jewel-encrusted shield. You walk around the room. There are no signs of traps or other creatures, so you grab the shield with both hands. The jewels explode, smashing slithers of poison. This is not a thing I don't actually like at all. See, your character is making a choice that you wouldn't necessarily have made. What this paragraph should have done is to say, you walk into a room to see a jewel encrusted shield. What do you do? Do you leave the room? Do you grab the shield? See what I mean? So, because now your choice has a consequence that you didn't actually, that doesn't follow logically from your choice. And this is, I think, the greatest sin you can commit in a game book. So that means I'm going the other way, 180. You are in another room. Good description. Yes, you're not in the same room anymore. No. You are in another room. In the corner stands a figure wearing a black cloak. You grasp your sword firmly and approach the figure, fearing the worst. But the figure does not move. When you get close enough, you find that it is made of some powdery substance. It changes as you watch it and begins to resemble a Khudam. You guess that the power of the shield is waning and that the 7 fell servants of Orguz are beginning to multiply. You know that you must hurry. You find a door heading south. Of course, there's not that many left to multiply, though. You find a door heading south and a door west. Which do you choose? And again, of course, random. One of them might actually be an insta-death. Again, 3, 2, 5, 3, 1, 4. Okay, so that's south or west. I'm going to go west, 3, 2, 5. You go into another room. This time there are torches on the walls giving off black fumes. The fumes get thicker and suddenly you cannot breathe. There is a door leading south. You rush towards it, but your limbs seem to respond very slowly. Throw 2 dice for the amount of stamina needed to get to the door. If this is less than your stamina score, you have made it. Turn to 68. If not, you choke to death. So yes, I'm going to go 68. This book does not play fair at all. You're in a chamber with 2 doors heading west. You choose the left-hand door or the right. So I'm just going to put them here actually to use a bit more of the space. So 219 or 120, right and left. I'm going to go left, 219. This bit seems a bit pointless to me at the moment. Now that thing with the Khudam that was sort of materializing, that makes sense. That's good. But yeah, the other stuff is a bit, and the insta-deaths and things, yeah, no. You find yourself on a ledge. Suddenly you hear a sound and look up to see a tail spiker on the wall above you. It swings its evil tail and you have to fight it with your sword. Yes, indeed. Stating the obvious. If you survive, you make your way along the ledge and enter another room through an air shaft. Turn to 78. I have a feeling that is somewhere you can get to by some other means as well. Because it's through an air shaft. 78. As you step into the room, you hear the flap of wings and the scream of a gargoyle from the tower. It rushes into the room and you swipe at it with your sword. 1 strike combat, 50-50% chance of surviving. If you hit, then you have wounded it. It screams and you have time to rush into the next room. If it hits you, then reduce your... Okay, in this case it was 1 strike combat but not to the death. That's good. If it hits you, then reduce your stamina by 2 points before rushing into the other room. You shut the door, but know that you cannot stop the beast from breaking in. To make a dash across the room to the next door, test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 110. 110. If you're unlucky, the gargoyle bursts in and you will have to fight it. 9, 10. If you win, turn to 110. Okay, so again, putting more than one paragraph in one paragraph, which is efficient, I guess, but this time the door slams behind you. You're in a room with torches blazing, like most of the other rooms, and you can see two small orcs who seem to be repairing a crack in the wall. They are not armed and stand amazed as you pass them on your way to the only other door heading north. You enter a room to find nothing but two exits. Do you go north or west? So this is not how not to make a dungeon crawl, I think, in many ways. It's a bit dull and boring. 132, I'm going to go north again. Okay. And that is one of the... oh, hang on. 132, is that the one I've been... I've been there before. Okay, so this is actually a maze that is finally been established, because this one leads to 132. Which is the end. So 20 is where I'm going. Okay, so maybe it is a well-designed maze. It could be. I just haven't seen enough of it yet to know for sure. Your door slams behind you, and you are once again in the dark. You feel the walls, but find no other doors. As you walk around, you step on a little squishy creature that squeaks and explodes with a blue flash. You slip on several others and then realize that the chamber is full of these creatures. Just then, you slip on one of them and your hand feels this. If you recognize the secret cipher, you speak the number and a trapdoor opens, revealing a tunnel. Turn to that number. If not, then the little beasts crawl all over your body until they slowly smother you. So, in this case, the only way out is the cipher. So this is 1 plus 2 plus 8, so that is 11. Plus 32 is 43, plus 64 and 128. So 1, 2, 8, 64 and 43 is 15 and 10, 13 and so that's 10, 13, yeah, and 235. Okay, so 2, 3, 5 or the end. Alright, let's put it like that on my map. 2, 3, 5. You crawl along the tunnel and open another trapdoor. You're in a room with a staircase leading up. You go up the stairs and find another room with doors heading east and south. Okay. Okay, 162 east and 344 south. I'm going to go east 162. As you walk into the room, two dark elves grab you from either side, and the knight slips a metal collar on your neck. You hear the booming laughter of Oguz and see his bright red eyes as he orders you to kneel in front of his lieutenants. One of the dark elves gets ready to swing a sword, blah blah blah. Insta-death again, and 344. You walk in and the door closes behind you. You stand on a narrow stone path excuse me, that heads south, then east. On either side of the path there is a swirling blue smoke. It lies on the ground and seems to create strange and hideous shapes. Suddenly the smoke takes the shape of a warrior. It stands behind you and swings its sword. The blade crashes on the path, just missing you. You thrust your sword through its body, but to no effect. You run into the next room east and shut the door. The shadow passes through the door. You rush on, but the path divides. Which path do you take? The one leading to a door north, 162. I know that's the wrong way. Or through a door east, turn to 24. Do I have 24? I don't think I have 24. Okay, so I'm going to do 24. 2, 4. Okay. Another door slams behind you, but this time the shadow does not follow. The path is still surrounded by swirling smoke. Suddenly, the teeth of a metal trap snap shut. Throw a die for your position and the second die for where the trap shuts. If the two throws match, you are caught and severely wounded. Deduct 3 stamina points, repeat twice, blah blah blah. If you survive, the path divides leads both to a door east and to an exit north. 118 and 339. Do I have any of these before? I don't think so. I'm just going to put those here. 118 and so 118 east and 339 north. I'm going to go north 339. You're in a room with 2 exits. Do you wish to go north or west? 196 or 1. Okay, so again, leading to 162. Actually, this one, which I know is. It seems like we're getting sort of more and more mazy here as we move along. 196. Okay. This leads me more easily in the right direction, I guess. The room is pitch black. Slowly you begin to discern the sparkle of glass. It gets brighter and brighter until the room is full of mirrors. One of the mirrors shivers, and there stands the Dark Lord Urguz in his diamond and glass armor. Strange beams come out of his eyes. Then you see 2 other figures of Urguz. They all laugh at you and arrogantly dare you to strike out with a sword. Where do you strike? On the left-hand figure, the figure on the right, or the figure in the center? Well, if there are 2 mirrors, one on each side, it's more likely to be the figure in the center, isn't it? I would not put it past him for this to be just a random choice, though. Let's see. So 386 right, 62 middle, and 35 left. Because now I got to this point and there's still 2 Khudam that I haven't killed, so I'm not going to make it. But let's strike on the left hand one, 35. As the left knee was mentioned, I'll just go with that one. Image shatters and the other 2 laugh at you. A fragment of glass strikes you on the arm, blah blah blah, -2 stamina. And the grisly voice screams at you, try again, oh blood heir to Tancred the Magnificent. If you have not already done so, choose whether to strike the figure in the center or on the right. So this is the wrong choice. Center, 62 is the wrong one, which means the one on the right is the right one. 386. Okay. You strike at Urguz and he quickly backs away. You have chosen the correct image. Suddenly he holds a sword that looks like yours. No other dares to hold a sword in my presence. You have the blood of Tancred the Magnificent coursing in your veins, and you hold the twin sword of light. But I am still your master. Prepare to die. Turn to 309. 300, oops, wrong color. 309. Okay. But of course I can't kill him now, probably, because you must fight Urguz by the number of Khudam left alive on your adventure sheet. What does that even mean? Do you have to fight him several times for each? That's a kind of weird thing, okay? But that actually is okay. If you win, mark off 1 Khudam on the adventure sheet. If you win and you have tempered your sword in the half flame of Minosadur, turn to 385. If not, you must fight Urguz again until you have marked off all the Khudam lives on the adventure sheet. Does that mean that if you temper your sword in the flame, you don't actually have to kill the Khudam? Because this is suddenly completely different to what you've been told early on in the game. And that is also a little bit daft. Once all the Khudam are accounted for, turn to 385. Okay, so actually, I thought you had to temper it in the mines of Minosadur. I thought that was not an option. And also I thought it wasn't an option not to kill all the Khudam, but it turns out you either kill all the Khudam or you temper it and you're good to go. That's a bit daft. Anyway, I have tempered it in hard clay or minusvalur and 385. If there are any Khuddam still alive on your adventure sheet, Orgus regenerates slowly into the guise of another Khuddam. You have a fleeting chance to strike unopposed at the part of his body, and this is where the clue comes in handy. If all the Khuddam are dead on your adventure sheet, Orgus stands like a statue in front of you. The malice still inhabits his body. You must strike the lethal blow to rid it of the evil. Where do you strike? Left knee is the one that I've been given. I'm just going to put up all the options out here for future reference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so 38, 140, 46. Seems a bit wasteful with paragraphs to do this. 2, 6, 6, 3, 4, 2, 3, 9, 2, 3, 6, 8. I would have preferred sort of a code or something. So left knee and lower leg. 392 is the one I'm going to go for. You have struck a lethal blow. There is a bitter scream and all the mirrors in the room shatter as Orguz begins to decay and age. The malice which has kept him alive for so long leaves his now frail frame. His flesh crumbles to dust and everything is swept away by a strong wind. The wind blows stronger until a screen is blown down to reveal 2 orcs and a goblin frozen in the act of spell-breaking the true shield. You stride forward and grab the shield. As you touch it, you see the face of the wizard Astrogal beckoning you. Your vision begins to darken. Turn to 238. 238. As though in a dream, you are dragged through all the places you visited in your quest. You hang on to the shield until you find yourself back in the keep at Gorak. You are standing in front of the crack you entered a long time ago, clutching the shield. Tabasha jumps out of your pocket and runs across to Astrogal, who is loitering in the corner. In front of you are 5 knights who have been waiting for your return. Study the knights carefully. Can you spot the traitor? You have only 1 attempt. If you fail, the real traitor will exact revenge for his or her thwarted ambitions. From the left, you choose the first, second, third. Okay, so another puzzle, but a visual puzzle. That's unusual. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, and 5. I suppose I was given some clues about that earlier that I might have missed. 1, 6, 0, 3, 4, 1, 48, 3, 6, 7, and 3, 4, 9. Okay. So, what on earth am I looking for? They all got different symbols. So it must be the symbol that is decisive in discerning who is the traitor. So, I did actually see a person that was described as the possible traitor at some point. Now, I did indeed, so I don't want to, since I'm right at the end, I'm not going to play this again. So let's see, 3, 6. So 238 is where I'm going back to. I just have to see if I can find out where the reference was that I'm looking for now. Aha, okay, so that is the 35. Let's see, I'm looking for page number 4, I think. Is where I'm supposed to find the clue. 4. Okay, so I was thinking actually the cross daggers right away. So In the courtyard, you see a knight in full armor inspecting the troops. You cannot see the face, but notice a crossed daggers motif on the armor. Okay, so that's sort of what I sort of half remembered when I saw that picture there now. So that's the one I would have gone for, 238. But that's the most obvious one as well, and it just, yeah. So that is number 3 from the left, 48. That's the one I'm going to pick. You have identified the traitor. He runs away down the corridor but is cut down by a particularly vicious spell from Astrogal. Turn to 400. You have succeeded in the quest. The Dark Lord Oguz is no more, and the shield is once again protecting Gorak from the malice of the chasms. You are hailed as Tancred's heir, and all the knights of the Grey Horse swear allegiance to their new monarch. And that is the end of the story. I'll just put up, I have to put up here, don't I? So, 400. There we are. Okay, so I really like the beginning of this book. I mean, the structure of it, with the way you could sort of find your way around, how it seemed like a very good, well-structured puzzle to find your way through. But once you got to this end bit, I mean, that was really disappointing. How you suddenly have a really mundane Ian Livingstone-style dungeon crawl with, you make the wrong choice, there's absolutely no way you can know which choice is correct, and it's an insta-death there, and an insta-death there, and an insta-death there. And also I'm a bit disappointed that you didn't have to kill all the 7 Khuddam, that you actually are allowed to just kill Oguz several times to make up for them. That was very disappointing, because that also means that there isn't one true path through, but not necessarily in a good way. I don't know, it's a bit disappointing in many ways, some bits of this. But overall, I would say that I'm actually quite like this book, because it has some really good things going for it. If you ignore the fact that you don't have to kill all the Khuddam, then of course it is a well-structured path through until you get to the Citadel, and also just finding the Khuddam. And of course now that means there's 2 Khuddam. I don't actually know where they are, but of course they would probably be in the Citadel. Maybe one is in the Citadel, maybe one is still outside. It doesn't really matter, apparently, which is a bit disappointing. And yeah, but overall I enjoyed playing this game, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope you look forward to the next one. I don't know when the next one will be played, because let's see, but the next one is this one. This is Battle Blade Warrior, and of course another of the ones that I never knew about back in the day, because as I mentioned before, I stopped sort of looking at fighting fantasy books at Midnight Rogue, which was the last one that I bought before I moved on to other things. So Battle Blade Warrior will be interesting. Completely unknown to me what's going on here, but at the moment it looks like there's some kind of orc that's flying a pterodactyl of some sort, some pterosaur anyway. Right, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching. This got to be quite a long episode, because I had to work my way through all the insta-deaths, and yeah, and get to the end, which I eventually did, and there's almost absolutely no way you can do this one without, while rolling the dice fairly, and the book doesn't play fair with you. So I think that it seems fair to me to ignore the dice and just try to enjoy the book as best as possible, although it was a little bit harder right towards the end, I'm afraid to say. A little bit of a cop-out, I think, to have just a mundane dungeon crawl, Ian Livingstone style dungeon crawl at the tail end of the game. Although I suppose, I mean, the rooms were reasonably well described, I think. It wasn't like Space Assassin where sort of whether you have all these paragraphs where there's absolutely nothing but directions. So fair dues, not too bad in that sense, but still not perfect, but some good stuff going on. And I really like the world building aspect of this book. I mean, the backstory is decent. I like the story of the Khodam. And of course, you have the culture that actually has been described, because you both have an orc culture, the Hokusai orcs, how they have their own this sort of ritual of the chase. You have the field brethren, the people, and of course some little inklings of their kind of culture has been expressed through this book as well, and it is beyond what is technically needed to create the book, and also, but it feels like there's more going on in the background that you only see glimpses of. And those glimpses are consistent, perhaps with the exception of some names. And so you feel it's part of a greater kind of world-building effort that is actually better than what I've seen in any other fighting fantasy book until this point, I believe. So kudos for the world building, I think. A bit of a shame that it structurally was a little bit somehow, although of course a lot of it was actually very well made. The mazes seem reasonably well constructed as mazes. The that sort of cave of Minos Hathor, a little bit, yeah, mundane kind of thing, but yeah, otherwise it was very good. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it overall. No complaints really. I mean, no true complaints. I like the good bits and I ignore the bad bits eventually, and I said that I've had a nice time playing it, which I indeed have. So thank you for watching. This is a long episode. I do apologize for those of you who actually have a life to go back to and do other things besides watching my very long videos. But I will see you in my next one, and thank you again for watching. Goodbye for now. Bye bye. Oh.